I just say, like, it was peacocking, and I'm kind of very dull.
New Year's. Well, I was going to say New Year's Eve. It's New Year's Day.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I've only got 30 seconds, so you're going to have a tremendous show, no doubt.
Yeah, I am. I've got Benedict Spence with me. We're going to look at the battle of the New Year's Eve messages and just pick them apart in a horrible, sardonic, sceptical way to cheer everyone up. Unlike me.
Very unlike you. Well, I hope the show goes very well indeed. Good to see you and Happy New Year. Steve Denyer, thank you very much.
Guys.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all of you as well at home. I'll see you tomorrow. Kick-off 6 o'clock. Make sure you're there.
I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament, and we will have a general election on the 4th of July.
I have just returned from Buckingham Palace to form the next government of this great nation.
Take a look at what happened.
I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack.
The time has come, and this surely is England's time. Williams, who scores, and Spain lead. A shot from distance is in. It is Cole Palmer. Low ball in on Palmer, slides it in.
An absolute killer of a goal.
I agree with the protest, but I don't think the violence was anywhere near necessary.
No, I mean, I don't think anyone, Nigel, would ever think that the violence was the answer at all.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה.
I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me.
If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats.
Liberal left couldn't understand that this man could be anything other than the great newsreader, a man of integrity.
Is it possible in any way, shape or form that Keir Starmer didn't know about these facts about the suspect in Southport?
I find it extraordinary that he wouldn't know. It seems that the public has not been told the truth.
No, there's nothing like an American election, I have to say. North Dakota has gone red, South Dakota's red, Texas is red.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason.
Bloomberg UK reporting Ukraine has made the first long-range missile strike inside of Russia. These are the missiles that Biden...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to the show. Was that a bit loud? How's your head? Is it okay? Have you had your Alka-Seltzer yet? Okay, but in the next break, you go and get them, okay? And now try and be as mild as possible until then. I'm with you to usher you gently into the new year. Who are we kidding? Until 1 o'clock, coming up on the show. As the world enters 2025, Sir Keir Starmer has acknowledged that many in Britain find it hard to think about the future. Yup. He admitted in the New Year's message that 2025 would have to be a year of rebuilding. Oh, great, smash the place up in 2024, put it back together in 2025. Should we take a little listen to what he had to say?
Till you can look forward and believe in the promise and the prosperity of Britain again, then this government will fight for you. A fight for change that will define this year,
well, there we go.
next
There's
year,
the Keir Starmer saying
and indeed
absolutely nothing at all. And that
this...
wasn't actually supposed to happen. That was actually a little technical issue there on the 1st of January. Great way to start the show, but actually pretty much is what that's kind of what the actual speech sounds like. I sat there listening to it, and about halfway through I was like, I'm done now. I cannot begin my year on this note, because it was basically that, just a load of empty platitudes. Now, we can play it now, apparently. I think everyone's hungover. What's going on behind the glass there, lads? Come on. Right, let's have an actual listen. It's not going to be any better. It's probably going to be worse, but take it away, Keir.
Till you can look forward and believe in the promise and the prosperity of Britain again, then this government will fight for you. A fight for change that will define this year, next year, and indeed every waking hour of this government. We have a clear plan for change. 1.5 million new homes, restoring the dream of home ownership. Children starting school ready to learn. A more secure energy system. Waiting lists cut dramatically. Immigration reduced. Neighbourhood police tackling antisocial behaviour in every community. And more cash in your pocket wherever you live.
Yeah, I kind of tuned out halfway through that as well, except I think his congestion's getting worse, isn't it? I think his New Year's resolution would be to go and see someone about his nasal passages. Now, as the Prime Minister seeks to rebuild the public's opinion of him following some, well, fairly disappointing polls, we might say, it comes out that the new Ofgem price cap kicks in as of today. We're waiting with bated breath, aren't we, to know whether our bills are going up or are they going down? Well, I think you know already. We're going to be absolutely rinsed dry. And January, dry January, there you go, look at that segue. Is it just an excuse to drink more throughout the rest of the year? Or is it actually a healthy way to kick off the beginning of a fitness journey? Will you be taking part? Some of you right now, cursing your very lives, would definitely be saying, I'm never going to drink again. I bet you by about 7 o'clock this evening that leftover alcohol from Christmas is getting a second eye, isn't it? Don't lie. I know you. This is Talk. Welcome to the home of Common Sense on DAB Plus Radio, on YouTube, on your smart speaker, on your connected device, and indeed on our snastastic little application you can download onto your smartphones. You can just take us with you everywhere. If you're going to go on a holiday, get some winter sun, I am. You can just listen to the whole back catalogue of Common Sense. Tune in live. Never miss a minute. Benedict Spence is here. Oh, wow, what's that face? You're not ready for this, are you? 2025 is not. You want it to begin tomorrow, don't you?
Yeah, that would be great.
When do you want it? Ever? Do you want it ever to begin?
To be honest, I think if we just pause all of this moving forward through time, it's hard enough to get a handle on time that's already gone past without having to sort of anticipate what's coming next, given the last couple of years that we've had. We're a quarter of the way through the century.
Well,
doesn't it feel great?
If you're going to have a sort of a biocentric, transcendental, a priori view of the universe, metaphysically speaking, and if you look epistemologically, it's all the things that Immanuel Kant said. That's kind of it. You actually create time yourself in your own mind, so choose to opt out.
Great. All right, well, I'll leave you to do this and I'll just drink this coffee in the corner, because technically I'm not here.
I don't know.
Never was.
I don't know what's wrong with it. Do you know, I delight, actually, in basically not doing New Year's Eve. I hate New Year's Eve. I just think it's such a pointless thing. It's like, oh, the date's shit. You know, you could have a New Year's Eve every single day. It's like, it's the very first 2nd of January
Yeah,
this
depending
year.
on what culture you are. There are many different, New Year's, many different
Pick your
opportunities
calendar.
to restart at the first couple of months.
As we were saying, time is but a construct.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I kind of can't be bothered with New Year's Eve, so I went to bed yesterday about 11 o'clock with a bottle of champagne, you know, because life. Had a bit of Jules Holland on, flipped back to watch the fireworks, and then went to sleep. So I'm fairly sprightly this morning. I'm all right. I didn't even finish the bottle of champagne. Me and the other half had a couple of glasses each.
A couple of glasses as much sleep, and you're feeling very...
left. And it was like, we sort of held the bottle up and it's like, shall we? And it's like, no.
I see. And are you optimistic for this new year?
Do you know what?
No.
I am.
For heaven's sake.
No, I am.
Why?
Let me tell you
Where's
for
the
why.
evidence to suggest it's going to get any better?
Here comes the evidence that this is going to get better. So, first of all, Donald Trump is now going to be the American president.
It's like
this is good.
It's like throwing a grenade into a trench and going, well, it could work, it might not, though. You know,
no, things have already changed. There's already this sense of people going, oh, got to do things a bit differently. It's like the mood music's changed. OK, we're zagging and everyone else is zigging because they've all realised that, they've got to get with the programme of closing borders and not, mutilating children and all those horrible things that we've been doing for the past decade. And Donald Trump's going to come in, bam, first 100 days in power, get things done.
So
another
country is going to have a good year. That's a promising start. Another country is going to have a good year.
The thing is, these people, these sheeple in government, like Sir Keir Starmer, you see him sitting in the corner of that room.
Yeah.
Do you want to know why he sits in the corner of the room?
Go on.
Because that's the closest plug sockets. They can plug him in and he doesn't run out of battery halfway through that speech.
That's true.
Yeah. So the thing is, he doesn't have a brain or conviction or belief or ideology. He's just some automaton who wants to be there for the kudos. And as for the rest of them in the Labour Party, I dare you to try and find enough brain cells to make one average-sized human brain between the lot of them.
Yeah.
So they aren't a thing.
But they are in power for 4.5 years now. And we don't have a mechanism to get rid of them.
But it almost doesn't matter, because I've begun to realise that you could put a goat in 10 Downing Street. As long as it's, just compliant and complicit, it just ticks along as it's always done. What you need is someone, it's really going to change here when someone big with conviction and motivation and belief and an agenda gets in and goes, like, we're actually going to do things. But otherwise...
When they get in. So in 4.5 years' time.
No, but until then, they will just go,
I don't want to be
Trump
Eeyore
agenda,
in the corner. I don't want to be Eeyore over here.
Well,
that's the problem, is that it is rather a long way away, the potential sunlit uplands. And in the meantime, we're caught between competing spheres of influence on the global stage. One is the United States, which could conceivably go in a very promising direction. One of them is the European Union, which we have...
It's going down the...
Well, that's the point. Despite voting to leave, we somehow are now about to chain ourselves even closer to on worse terms. And the other is China, which is actually very far off in the distance. It's got nothing to do with us anyway. So those are the options. Get dragged behind in multiple slipstreams.
It's good. America's going to go on the up. It's going to go great guns. They're going to do things like start controlling the borders. It will give political cover for other leaders in the West to do the same. The problems which affect America seem to be affecting all of the West. So it will kind of give motivation, political cover, inspiration. It sets a trend. It sets a narrative. The first country that goes, we're going to actually, I don't know, turn back boats or whatever it is. Everyone else will then go, oh, I can do the same now. So, we just need that first domino to fall.
Do you think that this Labour Party would actually do that, though? Do you think
I reckon they would.
Do you really think that a government that's prepared to trash children's education over very, petty sort of ideological points would actually go, yeah, do you know what, we're going to turn the boats around? No, they aren't. No,
I reckon they will.
They are a good 5 to 10 years behind the rest of the Western world. They are still signed up to this idea, A, that the international community is a thing and that its opinion matters, and B, that, Britain is all open and that migration is fantastic. The rest of the world is waking up to the fact that if you just have sort of untrammeled migration and it's very sort of unpicky and anybody can come in, and you marry that to a welfare state and you marry that to an unproductive economy, that it'll work out. Everyone else is getting it, but they aren't, and I don't think they're going to.
Well, I don't know about that, because I think, like I said, they're sheeple. They'll just see what everyone else is going, so we can do the same now.
You see, I think that's being a bit kind to sheep, to be honest. I don't think that they are. I think that they're very ideologically driven. If I'm being completely honest, I think it's very foolish. I think it's very foolish to just sort of take them as these sort of empty shells. I think they do have an ideology. I just think it's very out of date, even for progressive Western Europe.
You're definitely right when it comes. They're going to trash our economy. Oh, that's true. The economy's gone under Labour.
Yeah, this is the continuation of Blairism, but a good almost 2 decades after the end of Blairism.
I wish I had someone optimistic in the studio.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. We can be optimistic about other things if you want.
OK, well, shall we try that? What about energy bills?
Well, now you're just trolling me. Come on. This is your job to be optimistic. We're the yin and yang, and this is Britain in a nutshell right now.
I find out this morning, as I said, you'll be able to explain this, because that's the sort of thing that you do. This is where you will be useful.
Oh, great. Thanks.
So energy bills are going to be going up, and especially they're going to go up in Austria and Eastern Europe, because, I didn't realise this, but Gazprom's contract with Ukraine comes to an end. I'm like... There's still been a contract?
Yeah.
Gazprom being the biggest energy supplier, biggest Russian energy company had still been paying Ukraine to transit their gas basically through to Europe, and that deal's done, babies. Which I'm amazed that it was still going on. But you know, Putin needs this cash money.
Well,
Putin
needs cash, and Ukraine needs that cash as well. Actually, it is quite amusing that it's been going on.
We're going to blast holes in each other, but at the same time make money from each other.
But it's also a form of being able to keep diplomatic channels open whilst not having any diplomatic ties at all. It helps actually if you have a very important energy, contract between the two of you, which both of your economies are desperately reliant upon.
Yeah.
And this is also, it must be said, one of the things that has been, I think, confused a lot of people who haven't been keeping as close an eye on the war is Ukraine's inability, or rather reluctance at this point in time, to target much of Russia's energy infrastructure. Because you'd be sat there thinking, well, if you really wanted to hurt Russia, you'd start blowing up pipelines. Yeah. But of course you won't if you're also reliant on those pipelines.
Right, because you get money from the transit.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, it was one of the reasons why people were sort of pointing the finger at Ukraine over the Nord Stream explosion as well, saying, well, who's interested in it? Obviously it's Ukraine, even though everybody turned around and went, it's the Russians, they've blown up their own pipeline. Even though they have the tap and they can just turn it off, it's those dastardly Russians again. No, it was the US and Ukraine. Everybody knows that, because then that limits the numbers of pipes that Russia can actually use to transit its stuff into Europe. But this deal is coming to an end.
This is the new thing for 2025,
it's coming to an end, isn't it, as Donald Trump, as you say, is about to take the reins in the White House, and he's very keen to get a deal done. And it does sort of feel as if we might be edging closer to a point where there might be a deal there. I mean, Zelensky talking about the possibility of conceding territory, or at least claims on territory.
It's about 20%, isn't it, that Russia's sort of got at the moment?
Yeah, and it's a tricky one.
Don't give them the coastal areas.
It's a tricky one because Russia would turn around in that situation and go, oh, well, thanks for recognising this territory that we already have, but most of the world already does. Western countries are putting sanctions on Russia and on the areres that they're occupying, but most of the rest of the world doesn't care.
Yeah, it does almost condone Russia, because they'll be like, they've finally seen sense. This was always ours. That's the problem. He wants the access to the seas.
Of course he does.
It's the Odessa. It's all around there.
Of course he does.
Got Crimea. That's all about control of the maritime routes.
There's a slight difficulty right now, which is that Russia would turn around and then say, well, thanks for this, but we already have it. We don't need you to recognise it. What's actually to stop us pushing on? They've, I think, taken an area that's slightly larger than London in the last couple of months. They're doing quite well. There was always this likelihood.
Someone listened to the Today programme this morning, didn't they?
Well, no, actually. I didn't listen. Do I strike you as being alert enough to have been listening to the radio at this point? No.
By osmosis.
No, it's nice to know that the Today programme is caught up about 2 weeks later. But yeah, it's one of those situations where the Russians, through attrition, are going to just keep on taking more and more territory. So the Russians would then turn around in the face of Donald Trump and Zelensky and say, OK, thank you for giving us this territory, which we already have, but we're going to keep on with this anyway because we're winning.
Right.
And then, of course, come the questions of, well, OK, there's this deal that's coming to an end. There's what's currently going on in Syria. There's Russia's access, therefore, to North Africa. There are other parts at play, which makes the timing of what happened in Syria very curious.
The interesting thing politically is what has been potentially mooted if there is a territorial deal. Let's stop the war and Putin gets X, Y, and Z. Don't give him the coastal stuff, anyway. What's being mooted is then on the Ukraine side of things, there'll be peacekeeping forces. And the suggestion is, where should they come from?
Yeah.
Well, Poland, who'll probably be willing to help. They'll get stuck in.
Yeah,
the others are Germany, France, and the UK. Now, the UK is one thing because I think if you poll most British people, there'll be a few outliers, but a lot of British people go, yeah, we've got to help Ukraine. Yeah. Sending our troops to actually, can potentially come face to face with Russian troops is a different thing. France and Germany, of course, where there's a far higher level of anti-sentiment against helping Ukraine, are both gone. They've basically got no governments.
But again,
Germany's facing critical elections. France is essentially got no government. It has to wait until it can have an election, but it's just not functioning at all. This is actually a doorstep issue in those countries. I can't see any government coming into either of those countries going, yeah, we're going to go along with this.
I don't think it would be those countries, though. That's the end of it. It would be Poland. And this is, again, a reason
with
why
the help of America.
I don't... Yeah, and this is, again, the reason why I don't... Well, Poland is spending a lot on its military. And it's doing that for very obvious reasons. And again, it's one of the reasons why I think Russia would be very anti the idea of actually signing a peace agreement, because I think there'd be a Polish, we call it peacekeepers, there'd be an expeditionary force the other side of the Dnieper by the end of the week with US and British assistance. I don't think they'd want that at all, because those troops would never leave. The other thing, of course, is sooner or later, if this keeps on going, Romanian peacekeepers will end up in Moldova as well. And then at that point, that's another non-NATO country that then has NATO troops in it. So the second that you're making peace deals, Russia actually has a lot more to lose by making a peace deal now than it did, say, a year ago when the war wasn't going particularly well. Because it would mean there's the finite amount of land that you're going to get, and it's a good amount of land, but you're not going to get any more, because then you'll be going to war with a NATO country. And that's even if Ukraine doesn't join NATO, which it's not going to. But you might see the speeding up process, say, of Ukraine joining the European Union, which would be a halfway
There will be
house.
this sort of public proclamations, declarations. There'll be all of the sort of precursory treaty signs, the economic partnership arrangements, the what do they call it when they? I mean, Turkey has had one of those for ages. A shakedown. No, Turkey's had one of those with the EU for ages. A sort of pre-accession agreement.
Yeah.
Like, we will join the EU at some point when they want us. When we meet all the. It's just nonsense. It's just there for sort of diplomacy purposes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And also a bit of breaking news for you, ladies and gentlemen, that should surprise absolutely nobody. We have the total of migrants who crossed the English Channel to the UK in 2024, which is 36,816, up 25% on 2023. That's according to provisional government figures. A flow that is unlikely to stop. It's a bit like, when they smash the gangs, what are we going to do? It's a bit like the war on drugs.
No, you're being the pessimistic one. That is 30-odd thousand NHS doctors and nurses that we desperately need. All of them. They're going to build bridges, they're going to build roads and reservoirs, nuclear technology. It's going to be fantastic.
Dear Lord, we need to empty out the Ritz. They deserve better.
It's going to be fantastic. You're going to get tired of winning.
I know. Anyway, on that note, we're going to take a little break now. Well, I'm going to get myself a little cup of tea. You, however, is going to pick up your phone and you're going to dial this number, aren't you? That's right, 0344 499 1000, because when I come back from the break, I want to speak to you. I know you've got a hangover. I know your mobile phone right now feels like it was manufactured in 1981 and weighs more than a car battery. But pick it up. Go on, put the Alka-Seltzer down. Pick up the phone. Yeah. OK, good. Now, 0344 499 1000. That is the number to dial. Standard network rate. Nothing's changed in the new year. Still costs as much as phoning Mrs. Miggins. She wants her copy of the Da Vinci Code back. 87222 on the text. Put talk before your message. We're on X at talkTV. And don't forget, you can also use the medium of WhatsApp, which conveniently is exactly the same number as the one to call us on. 0344 499 1000. You can also leave me a voice note on WhatsApp as well. All right, going to take a short break now, but when I come back, hopefully we'll hear from some of you.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back. Look, I'm all the way this side of the screen. Hold on. There I go, in the middle again. No, I mean, otherwise I might be accused of being far right. Boom, boom. I know. I am on fire. Yeah. So shall we read some of your messages? Oh, Shay, little observant Shay, has apparently messaged me going, hi, Happy New Year. Starmer had no wedding ring on, question mark, question mark, question mark. I love it. Let's start the new year with completely unverified gossip.
Can a man not do the washing up without being questioned by people on the radio?
No, it's because he's charging. It's because he's, you know, he's got the electrical conduction. It might fry the circuits. You can't plug him into the mains with any connecting to any metal.
I didn't even realise he wore a wedding ring. I don't. Anyway,
Ben from Plymouth, picking up on what we were saying, pretty much sums it up in one sweet little sentence. The USA have Trump. Europe is leaning right. We have a commie Labour Party led by morons.
Thank you.
Yep.
So that's one for me.
Spain. All right, but hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Well, I might not because I'm going to the Canary Islands, but you know, part of Spain. I can't. I'm just going to rub that in because I am getting on an aeroplane tomorrow to somewhere where there's sunshine.
Good for you.
I know. Happy New Year to you all. Keir's speech. Really? His speech must have been written by the same people as the two Ronnies. The good thing was he did it without breaking into gales of laughter. It made me laugh, unfortunately. I think Brian is still doing New Year's Eve, isn't he?
Yeah.
Brian hasn't actually finished drinking yet.
Great 48 hours.
Brian's sort of like moved. He's transitioned seamlessly from like toasting in the New Year to Hair of the Dog without any break in the middle.
Maybe he was watching something else. Maybe he was watching, I don't know, a Jim Carrey film or something. He just got it wrong.
Someone else, Martin from Bristol, says, Happy New Year, Miss Phillips. Hi, Mart. Watching that Keir Starmer video, he's dead behind the eyes. It's just words, no feeling, no meaning. I hope for lots of Alex Banson rants in 25. Well, we'll see. Also, someone's commented on your eyes, Benedict.
Oh.
Proverbial holes in the snow is what they said.
Yes.
Yeah, go do that.
Sounds.
Yeah, I know. It's hard, isn't it? We'll get someone to wheel in some matchsticks.
You need to read out shocking things every couple of minutes. So I go, he said what? Or Keir Starmer did who? What? Now? Why?
What we are going to do to liven everything up, I decided this during the advert break because I feel creative today. And so I've decided we're going to play a game. And in deciding we're going to play a game, lovely Finn, who's producing me today, has gone out and got us playthings for our game.
No feather boas this time, no?
No, I know. That day that we did an accidental quiz. Yeah. I think we might still do an accidental quiz. You reminded me of that during the break, and I'm always up for a quiz. Everyone's up for a quiz, aren't they? I mean, everyone loves a good quiz. Tech Op is nodding there. Tech Op loves a quiz. You know it.
They just want to see me suffer. It's okay.
We used to do a quiz together quite regularly, didn't we, until the pub stopped. He's got his beat ready!
We used to do a quiz. Yes, we did. Nice.
Yes, we did, correct. Well, and see, Tech Up is always
we
ready.
were quite good at those, but we were drinking rather than having already drunk.
I still have that massive jar full of all of our winnings. 500 quid's worth of winnings that we're supposed to... Yeah, we're supposed to go to a Mexican restaurant wearing sombreros and somehow managed to spend 500 quid. We would have actually ended up in hospital.
We were actually quite a good quiz team.
We were really good.
It's very honest of you not to have spent that.
I haven't. I might have tipped my cleaner from it.
Oh, good
But that's
Lord.
okay.
How handsomely did you tip this cleaner?
I'm generous.
Oh, great. So there's 400 quid in there now.
No, not that handsomely. But I've actually done a quiz since then and won it. And you weren't present
with
at
other
that
people?
Quiz. Well, yeah, there was my brother.
Oh, I see how it is.
Wednesday nights now. It's a new quiz night, okay? Wednesday night is a new quiz night, not Sundays.
Where?
Where I live. Oh. Yeah. Anyway, forget that. Everyone at home's crack on.
Yeah.
So we've got a game that we're going to play, which I've decided we're going to hold up scorecards. We're going to listen to the three main New Year's leaders' speeches. I think we're still downloading Ed Davies or something. I don't think it even matters, quite frankly, because he's probably not saying anything but just falling off some sort of jet ski into, failing to drown yet again. But we're going to listen to excerpts from the main four New Year's speeches, and we're going to rate them. The first category, Benedict, is going to be delivery. Okay. Then we're going to have a little look at the production values, the content, and then give them an overall score. Should we do this out of 10, 5, 10?
10.
Okay. Well, who should we start with, Finn? Let's do Starmer first. All right, let's go boring. But hold on, we're prejudicing the results. Oh. It might be very entertaining. Okay, let's have a listen. And delivery, first of all.
until you can look forward and believe in the promise and the prosperity of Britain again, then this government will fight for you. A fight for change that will define this year, next year, and indeed every waking hour of this government. We have a clear plan for change. 1.5 million new homes, restoring the dream of home ownership. Children starting school ready to learn. A more secure energy system. Waiting lists cut dramatically. Immigration reduced. Neighbourhood police tackling antisocial behaviour in every community. And more cash in your pocket wherever you live.
Okay, so there you go. What is your delivery? What is your score for delivery?
Delivery was 3. In that he
You've got to
was.
hold up your card,
oh,
obviously.
Yes, of course,
Otherwise, we're wasting the.
Yes.
3.
Is this? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He was speaking English. He didn't stumble over his words. He didn't call anyone a sausage. Broadly speaking, I thought that this was not his worst performance. He didn't break eye contact, though, which was slightly concerning. He did speak in a very monotonous way, as he usually does. And just broadly speaking, I felt more like I was being put to sleep than I was being sort of invigorated.
Now they've got assisted dying, you can see the method they're going to use.
Can anybody actually see this, by the way? I've got a sort of I've got a sort of a fluorescent green.
We'll see if we can get you a better pen.
Okay, it's a 3.
There's a stationery cupboard down at Talk Sport I found out about the other day.
We didn't plan
so
this
we'll send
at all
someone
well,
down there.
we?
We didn't. So I actually wrote a few notes to help myself, but delivery I gave him 0.3.
Hang on, how come you get the colourful one? Okay, you get
Well,
the
it was
one
near me. So 0.3.
Unbelievable.
And I like the fact he decided not to wear. No, I didn't like the fact he decided not to wear the tie and roll up his sleeves, trying to look like a man of the people. Just dress properly, the Prime Minister, you big fool. I've also noted down moobs.
Moobs?
I thought he looked a bit mooby.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the end of the year. This is Christmas, and you're going to take a pot shot at somebody's weight. Oh! I don't think that's going to go down very well with the majority of people listening at all. None of us have had the opportunity.
That's why you should wear a jacket.
Yes, it's true. You should wear a jacket and a tie. But
and
again, isn't this production values rather than delivery?
Or maybe we just do it all wrap into one.
Yeah. See.
Okay. Because I also put audio on there. Because I didn't like it. It was production values. There you go, you've got a better pen now. Look at our production values, ladies and gentlemen.
Who are we to talk about production?
Yeah, I know. I thought the sound was bad on that.
Well,
okay, let's just go straight into production values, which I'm going to go for, 0.1, 2.
Well, there was lighting.
Okay, yeah,
you
I
could
wish
see
there wasn't.
what was happening.
I wish there wasn't.
There wasn't a technical fault halfway through, which happens rather a lot.
Okay, content.
So there you go. Content. Hang on, I need to rewrite this again.
Out of 10.
He did say some good things.
He said stuff.
I just don't believe it.
I couldn't remember what he said because it's really boring, but yeah, that's the thing, I don't believe
it. Again, that comes down to delivery rather than content.
Overall, out of 10, I'm going to make an average of mine, but I can't do maths, but I reckon it's probably 0.783 recurring. And 3. All right, so there you go. So Keir Starmer, those are his scores.
Great.
I bet we're going to have a break and we're going to do the next one later.
Yeah, who's the next one?
No, we're having a break first.
Oh, we are?
And then, I don't know, yeah.
Everybody needs to take some time to just consider what they've just...
everyone needs to,
what our
mark their own...
fearless leader has just told us. God.
All right, so after the break, we're going to be speaking to John Rentoul, and we'll catch up a bit later with what the other leaders had to say on this New Year's Day. See you in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. We are going to bless you with our verdict on those New Year's Day speeches throughout the show today. But right now we're going to be talking about what we could expect from the Labour Party in 2025 with John Rentoul, Chief Political Commentator for The Independent. Happy New Year, John.
Good morning. Happy New Year to you.
How sprightly and energised are you feeling?
Well, very. I've just been on a long cycle ride around East London, up the Lee Valley.
Oh, well done you. No Alka-Seltzer needed this morning?
No, I don't drink on New Year's Eve.
Do you drink the rest of the year?
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh, but I like that. But you sort of decide.
In moderation.
It's sort of anti-culture, isn't it? It's New Year's Eve and I'm absolutely not going to drink. I like that. I have a sort of anti-cultural feeling towards New Year's Eve. I don't like New Year's Eve. I actually take a delight in not participating in New Year's Eve. That's why people like us are so happy this morning.
I agree.
Have we got good reason to stay happy, though? That is the question. So Keir Starmer, in his New Year's speech, talking about this being the year for rebuilding, one would think, given the polling and given the way that people sort of feel things have taken a bit of a turn for the worst at the end of 2024, that's the only message, really, that he could give to the public. The old things are going to get better and we're going to make sure they do. How is he going to deliver this? What sort of things might he be able to do this year? What should we be looking out for?
Well, I mean, a year isn't very long when it comes to delivery, is it? I mean, I do remember Tony Blair being stuck in the same trap. I mean, what he called the post-euphoria pre-delivery phase, where he kept on trying to assert that he'd done all sorts of fabulous things, and he did actually achieve quite a lot in his first few months. I mean, he even achieved the peace settlement in Northern Ireland, which is not something that Keir Starmer's going to do the equivalent of. But he did end up sort of struggling to deliver any appreciable change for a long time. And it wasn't until quite close to the 2001 election that people began to feel the improvements coming through. So Keir Starmer's got a terrible problem over the next year, because he's just got to tell people to wait and hope, and in the meantime he'll just get more and more unpopular.
Well, but I think they're probably right about this. Any government, when they want to make changes, there is always a sort of drag time. There's a lag time within which it takes for people to start feeling the benefits of policies, or disbenefits, let's say. But what sort of things is he likely to do? He spoke in his New Year's speech about things he has already done. He talked about extra investment into the NHS, £25 billion. He talked about a 25% uptick in foreign criminals being deported from the United Kingdom. We know that not much has happened on the front of people crossing the Channel. But what sort of things do you think he's going to be doing in this year that are part of his programme?
It was very interesting that those are the two things that he mentioned, and they're the two things that really matter, the NHS and immigration. And he has to try and show some progress by the end of the year on both of those. I mean, it's all well and good claiming to have allocated billions and billions of pounds to the NHS, but until people actually see the results, until people can actually get hold of a GP or find an NHS dentist, they're not going to appreciate the Prime Minister throwing around large numbers. And as for immigration, as we know, the small boats are still coming, and they will keep coming, and he doesn't have an answer to that yet. And eventually he'll be driven to radical solutions, which a lot of his party won't like.
Mr. Rentoul, that circles back to a little argument Benedict Spence and I had just earlier, which was discussing what they might be prepared to do. And my sort of prediction would be that when Donald Trump becomes particularly assertive on this issue in America, it may create a ripple effect where other leaders around the world then feel like they have the political cover to also be a little bit more assertive when it comes to defending borders. And I think that a Labour Party is often gifted with being able to do things that are Conservative Party can't do because it's sort of not expected of them. And I would wonder, depending on what Donald Trump does, and I think you're alluding to this, that Sir Keir Starmer might take a radical step when it comes to the Channel boat crossings. And like you said, it wouldn't be popular with his party. What sort of thing do you think he could consider?
But I don't know what it is. That's the problem. It's not going to be the Rwanda scheme. I mean, partly because that took so long to get off the ground, its deterrent effect was diluted, and you know, I mean, it might have made a tiny difference at the margins, but something like, you know, he's going to need something like that, some kind of agreement with the French. I don't know what it'll be. You know, he's claiming to have started to return more people whose asylum applications have failed, and that's well and good, but it's not a significant number, and it's not going to act as a deterrent to most of those people trying to cross the Channel. So I don't know what he's going to do, and I suspect he doesn't either.
No, I think you're probably right, which is why I think that sort of looking to America is important, because this is an issue that seems to haunt much of the West, and depending what sort of decisive action is taken in other countries may inspire other nations, I think, to follow suit. Certainly that is something that we have seen already when it comes to, we abandoned the Rwanda plan, and Germany's sort of gone, oh, is Rwanda going free? All that stuff you built, maybe we could do that. So let's see what goes on. But I do think that it is going to be a domino effect. Let's talk about energy bills. Ofcom have talked about the new energy price cap. It's gone up. I think that was to be expected. Russia's little contract, Gazprom's contract with Ukraine, has come to an end, which will have a ripple effect in the wholesale energy markets. Again, it's going to be a while before any if we can expect any improvements when it comes to energy bills comes online, one assumes. And he's also got to tackle any sort of data that comes out as to the effect of the winter subsidies programme in terms of scrapping those for pensioners. I dare say come sort of February or March we'll start having charities, age concern and all the rest of it. Broadcasting, the impact that may have had. This is going to be a very difficult topic for him to sell, isn't it? Because bills are going to go up. The statistics, I think, after winter are not going to look good, and all the while he's going to be expecting more and more from voters to pay for his green agenda.
Yeah, I think that last bit is the real problem. He's still committed to this pie in the sky target of decarbonising the entire UK electricity generation generation system by 2030. I mean, you know, we've already lost 6 months now. I mean, that is 2030 is now just what is it? You know, it's 5 years away.
It's the 1st of January. We can do that. We can do that some easily, John. You know, I'd give you an excuse if it's October the 3rd, but beginning of the year, we know that's 5 years away.
Yeah, but it was 5.5 years away when he was elected, and you know, they've announced all sorts of things in the past 6 months, but you know, we haven't made any significantly faster progress towards that target, and nor will we, because I mean, once it becomes more expensive to try to reach that target, I think the resistance from consumers and voters will be too great, and they'll have to.
Again, I think the spectre of Donald Trump, if he just goes, you know, I'm not going to play this game anymore, I'm going to drill, and America starts to prosper from it, will also disincentivise voters from wanting to back net zero as well. I think he's in a difficult neighbourhood in the West at the moment, Sir Keir Starmer, and I wonder how much that is going to affect his resolve. John, extremely wonderful to catch up with you. Happy New Year to you, and can't wait to talk to you again in the future during this year, John Rentoul, ladies and gentlemen. Benedict, you are catching flies out the corner of my eye there.
About what?
Yeah, it's like looking down the Nord Stream 2. I thought I could see all the way to Russia. I just sort of like corner of my eye there is this sort of black hole that emerged.
I'm just not very optimistic about the future of this country for the next 4.5 years. I can't be. I'm sorry. I know that we're supposed to be starting off on a positive note, but you know, we remain open to the idea of having my mind changed. But no, I'm very despondent.
I just kind of think, can it get worse? Actually, don't answer that. Don't answer it.
Do I have time? Do I have time to go into all the different ways that it's going to get worse?
Yeah, we've got 2.25 hours of time. This is what you're here for.
Yes,
but
it is.
you know, people have got hangovers. You've got to
Well, I'm very sorry, but you get what you vote for. You get what you vote for, and people bought into the idea, many of them Conservatives, that we might as well have a Labour government because it couldn't be any different to being a Conservative one. It can absolutely be different. It can be a lot worse, and it is a lot worse. And I get it. The Conservative Party needed a kicking, needed to change, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be a very good 5 years, and it doesn't mean actually that what comes afterwards is necessarily going to fix it. We thought the last Conservative government would fix all the mess that the last Labour government made. It didn't happen. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I can't be optimistic. And for the time being, I can't be optimistic about reform either, because reform is in far too nascent and delicate stage of its infancy, if you like. It's not ready yet to be a party of government.
Okay,
I know a lot of people are pinning their hopes up. Sorry, where am I migrating? Oh, despondency and despair.
No, where are you emigrating?
Oh, emigrating to Switzerland.
All right, is that
always
your backup
Switzerland.
country?
That's always the go-to place, is Switzerland. Mountains, vaults, chocolate,
mountains and vaults.
trains that run on time, fondue,
cuckoo clocks.
Yes, absolutely. Lots of referendums. They do like a good referendum.
They do like a bit of direct democracy.
Yeah, actually,
Toblerone.
Good military uniforms. It's a fun place to be Swiss. The best of Europe without being in Europe.
The hills are alive, as they say.
Absolutely.
Right, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we're going to be talking a bit more about the energy price cap. That's taking effect with Andrew Montford, who's director of Net Zero Watch. We're back after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back. Enjoying some of your messages, ladies and gents. Let's have a little look. Someone said, seriously, Alex, please don't play Starmer again. I had a heavy night and he makes me nauseous. That's Brad in Cambridge.
Do it. Do it. Ruin Brad's morning. Come on. I want to know other people are suffering like I am.
But a lot of people don't want to hear that again. Brendan in London says, good morning, Alex and Benedict. Bad morning to you. Keir Starmer looked like a stressed-out care home manager that had been forced to work on New Year's Eve in that speech, while simultaneously sounding like a pound shop dictator. Happy, lefty, 2025.
There's a lot going on there. Actually, I mean,
I know.
Do care home workers stop working on New Year's Eve? Do they just leave? I was about to say the inmates. Do they leave the patients to their own devices and come back on January the 1st? Go right. Who survived then? Who made it through the night? Who heard the fireworks, had a heart attack, and there was nobody on shift?
That is dark. Meanwhile, we can't afford the energy bills anymore. Exactly. Your winter fuel allowances have all gone.
It's not my imagination. There. It's reality. It's the UK in 2025.
Yeah.
See?
Right, well, let's speak to Andrew Monsford, Director of Net Zero Watch. Hello, good morning, Happy New Year, Andrew.
And a Happy New Year to you too.
So we know, it's not a surprise, is it? I've been everything to this morning. Off Gem.
I told you it wasn't going to go well this year.
And off Gem. They have increased the energy price cap. I think we all expected that. But the big question I want to ask you, as Director of Net Zero Watch, is what you think's going to happen to Net Zero? Because I think it's on very thin ice, frankly speaking. Now Donald Trump is going to be in the White House.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think net zero is actually, in reality, dead in the water. I don't think that Labour can endure many more of these energy price increases. Every time they happen, it hits them hard. And there is no doubt, really, that the price cap is going to increase quarter on quarter for years. The only way the energy prices can come down are really, there's two ways. One is you can close down wind farms. That'll bring down energy prices. And two, you can get more gas. And essentially, Labour have written those two possibilities out.
Right,
they
done
said,
quite the reverse.
We're not going to frack, and obviously they want more wind farms. So the prices are going to go up. This is going to hit them hard. In reality, I think everybody knows that it's dead in the water. It isn't going to happen. When you even have people like John Rintoul saying that it's pie in the sky, this idea that we're going to decarbonise the grid by 2030, I think you can see there is a growing consensus that it isn't going to happen.
And of course, I think Donald Trump with his drill baby drill, he'll be looking to offload some of his delicious shale gas. I wonder if we start turning to America rather than Qatar when it comes to helping us keep the lights on over winter. Do you think that net zero will just sort of gradually unravel? I mean, some of the things that the Labour Party did in their first 6 months, yes, they went hell for leather on setting up Great British Energy, squandered about 9 billion quid of taxpayers' money in doing that. But they also start to slacken some of those key points that they were supposed to be hitting from the previous government, such as when it comes to the manufacture of electric vehicles and stopping to manufacture combustion engine vehicles. That has been sort of pushed backwards. I think they've sort of pushed backwards the idea of getting rid of all the gas boilers and putting heat pumps in instead. Is it just going to be a sort of, oh dear, we better just sort of like sweep this target away to one side?
Yeah, there's a bigger problem here, I think, is that in the sort of the bigger economic picture, the government's tax base is being eroded because their policies are closing down businesses, car manufacturing, all the energy intensive industries are in the process of closing down if they haven't closed down already. There's less tax coming in. So they're forced to increase taxes on the man in the street, and that depresses the economy still further. The government is going to very soon get to the situation where it needs growth back. The only way to get growth back is to get energy prices down. That means you can't just let net zero fade away. You are going to have to take active steps to reverse it. And that means things like closing down wind farms and solar farms, because they are what makes our energy, our electricity so expensive. And doing away with the fracking ban, obviously, on gas, because we need cheap gas as well.
Well, we know, don't we, that there's not a cat in hell's chance that Starmer's going to do that. He's hurtling very much in the opposite direction, cozying up to President Xi over in China. China in order to get more windfarms and solar panels and things like that. And certainly the word fracking will actually create a genuine earthquake in the Labour Party should that come out of Sir Keir Starmer's mouth. So what would be your projection of where energy bills are likely to go?
Now that is a good question. At the moment, the gas prices underlying it all look like the markets are predicting they're going to be steady for years to come. So I would be expecting them, electricity prices have doubled over the last 20 years. So in the next 5 years, they might go up, I don't know, another 25% or something, because it's an exponential increase rather than a linear increase. So yeah, can we accept a 25% increase in our electricity bills? No, probably not. I think that Labour may be forced into a reverse, whether they like it or not. I think the way out of this for Mr. Starmer is to get rid of Ed Miliband, who is widely seen as a dangerous fanatic. I think the problem is that Ed Miliband is an old friend of Keir Starmer's, and he is gonna, but he may be forced to do that just to save himself. If we have in 2025 a disastrous set of local election results for Labour, he may then be forced to change direction. I think he'll go slowly. I think once we get to the next general election, I think there's a lot of us, as Benedict alluded to earlier, hoping that reform can deliver major change. I think the doubts that Benedict raised about whether reform are ready to do that are absolutely correct. I mean, they are a campaigning organisation at the moment, and I think they need a policy production body behind them to show them what to do, because it is the process of reversing net zero is going to be extraordinarily difficult, and they can't turn up in power on the first day and then start thinking about it. They need to start thinking about it now. How are they going to, what policies are going to reverse it? How are they going to get a grip on the civil service, who I think, the civil service are... They want to stick with net zero because they're doing very well out of it. There's lots of cushy jobs going for them, and that kind of question is going to be very difficult to answer, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to need, I think, some old hands and advice to tell any nascent party anywhere in the world how to actually operate the levers of government. Andrew Montford, I feel like you've just handed in a job application straight to Nigel Farage. I'll let him know you're interested, shall I?
Director, do that, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it'd be great. There you go. I'll put you in touch. Director of Net Zero Watch there, Andrew Montford. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? By the way, Tony in Selby's just said, hi, Alex. So the POW lookalike, Benedict, that's you, wants to escape to Switzerland. So there's Great Escape then. I like the fact that this morning, because to me you normally look like, especially when you've got your moustache, sort of a RAF pilot, but everyone thinks you look like a prisoner of war today.
Not in this jacket, I don't think. This is rather garish to have been stuck in a stalag dressed like this. Doing rather well.
Could be just an eccentric professor or something who's been caught up in the midst of it all.
Sort of an Indiana Jones's father kind of character.
Yeah,
I was watching that last night, actually. That's a wonderful.
Do you know what? That's interesting. So we were on the sofa, Nicholas and I, flicking through the channels, and he saw it. His little eyes lit up when he saw Indiana Jones. He's like, "Oh, can we watch Indiana Jones?"
Did you let him?
No.
Oh.
I don't know what we watched. Oh no, it's quiz night on Monday, isn't it? So we watched Mastermind Only Connecting University Challenge instead.
University Challenge, fair enough. The other two, no time for that. But
I'd
also,
like
come
any
on,
old quiz,
Indiana Jones is only on at around Christmas time. I think it's a bit. I actually think of it as a Christmas. The three main ones as Christmas films, because that's the only time they're on, and you should let people watch them. They're very good films. They're very entertaining.
We're going on holiday. We can watch all the films we like. Oh. Talking about quizzes, like I found one in the Times here. It's not really an Aladict. What the hell is this?
Oh.
First of all, it's like Bents. I love a portmanteau, and now we're Aladict. That's
what
weird.
Is in the Times?
All right, I'm going to pick one at will. Here we go. What overlooked item was discovered at Private Eye's office? Was it a drink stashed belonging to Peter Cook, admiring letters from Robert Maxwell, or a journalist's guide to not getting sued?
I'm going to go with the journalist's guide to not getting sued.
Correct, it was McNay's. There we go. Every journalist has that. Have we got time for one more question? No, 20 seconds. That means we do not. But here you go. I've now got some sort of thing I've pulled out of the Times newspaper.
I see.
Which will get us through those quiet periods in the show.
I'm one
anyway,
for one.
talking about quiet periods, we're taking a break now, but don't you worry. There's still 2 more hours of nonsense and optimism coming up after this.
I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament, and we will have a general election on the 4th of July.
I have just returned from Buckingham Palace to form the next government of this great nation.
Take a look at what happened.
I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack.
The time has come, and this surely is England's time. Williams, who scores, and Spain lead. A shot from distance is in. It is Cole Palmer. Low ball in, or ball slides it in.
An absolute killer of a goal.
I agree with the protest, but I don't think the violence was anywhere near necessary.
No, I mean, I don't think anyone, Nigel, would ever think that the violence was the answer at all.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה.
I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me.
If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats.
The Liberal left couldn't understand that this man could be anything other than the great newsreader, a man of integrity.
Is it possible in any way, shape or form that Keir Starmer didn't know about these facts about the suspect in Southport?
I find it extraordinary that he wouldn't know. It seems that the public has not been told the truth.
No, there's nothing like an American election, I have to say. North Dakota has gone red, South Dakota's red, Texas is red.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason.
Bloomberg UK reporting Ukraine has made the first long-range missile strike
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Alex Phillips here with you through till 1 o'clock. And Benedict, either you're nodding off, catching flies, playing on your phone.
I've not started this year
Standards have slipped.
at all well, have I?
No.
Unbelievable.
Sit
Do you know
up
what?
straight,
I was
lad.
late because the tube was delayed.
Oh, yeah, the
and the
tube's
first
been
thing that
silly.
happened to me, to usher in 2025,
Yeah.
my phone closed about 400 open tabs, and I can't get them back. It's just... It started so bad.
So I basically just checked my phone, and Ted, who's normally my producer, but he's being like the dictator, station dictator today.
He's
Ted.
goose-stepping up and
He's
down
like,
the corridor.
He's
It's
not
really
even
awkward.
like in this room. He's out there sitting in front of the
On a
computer
balcony.
at the desk.
On a balcony
the
overseeing us
boss's
all.
desk, and
Yeah.
he'll probably come in and do what Ricky does in a minute and sort of peer at me through the glass. Less convincing because Ted looks like a sort of a bear, really, a little teddy bear.
Okay.
Yeah.
You wanna...
He hasn't got scary. Not that Ricky
If
has
you want to call
scary
the
face.
dictator a teddy bear, then you do you.
Well,
That's fine.
he's Ted's sort of, yeah, he's sweet looking, isn't he?
You just thought that 'cause he's
I reckon
called
he's
Ted.
quite evil. But anyway, I had problems on the tube this morning, and I got a load of messages in a little moment of ease, and then I couldn't reply to any of them. I've just seen Ted saying, we are worried a UFO has come and abducted you, because the tubes were late.
I see. And you've only just got that now.
Have they not realised that I am the one from space?
Yeah.
Like Elon Musk. I think
Yeah.
we both come from the same planet. Do you want a quiz question?
Go on.
OK. In January, Amal Rajan, the host of BBC Two's University Challenge, found himself going viral on social media after he told a team, "I can't accept drum and bass." What kind of music did he say was needed?
House? Acid house?
No, it was jungle. Did you never see part of that? And there you are.
No.
There was a load of sort of jungle music, the remixes of that, and it turns out that Amal Rajan actually loved a bit of jungle when he was at university.
How curious that the BBC... Is this a BBC quiz? Or
I know it is.
The BBC doing a quiz about their own correspondence on their own TV shows and saying, have you watched it? Have you not?
Well, you know, we sort of we didn't have time to... Oh, this isn't about the BBC. We didn't have time to make our own talkTV quiz. I could just invent one if you like.
You should do that, just for the chaos, for the
I've
pure
just thought
chaos.
of my first question, but I don't think I can say it aloud.
See, that's the problem, is that we'll try and do one off the cuff and think, Ofcom.
Yeah,
None of this is acceptable.
Which talkTV presenter?
No,
not
not that one.
Who said no? In 2009, who? No.
Which talk radio producer? All of the heads sort of come round the door, just like, what are you about to say?
Yeah,
no.
I know.
It can't happen. It can't. I think you should still do it.
One more question before we go back to our scorecard system. Queen Margaret II, the longest-serving monarch in Europe, surprised her country by announcing her abdication in a New Year TV address. But of which country was she queen? Now, do you want choices or do you want to take a stab in the dark?
I'm worried that you'll give me the two choices that I'm thinking of. And it'll be like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, when they go, I think it's between this and this. Let's go 50-50, and they leave them those two.
I know which one it is, but it is two between for me. So I want to know what your two choices are.
It's either Denmark or the Netherlands.
Oh, the three options are Belgium, Denmark, or the Netherlands. Queen Margaret.
It'll end up being Belgium now, won't it?
That looks like that I can tell from the face where she's from.
I can't see her face. That's
I know.
Okay, if you can tell from her face, I'm going to say, no, Denmark.
Yay,
there we go.
It's Denmark. She just looks very
I can tell by the face.
There you are.
A blonde, blue eyes, very high cheekbones.
Yeah, she wasn't 6'8".
I was going to say, you can tell her ancestors did some pillaging. Is basically what you're saying. It's a Dane, and I can tell that it's a Dane.
That's a boring question. We're not having that one. It's just dull. Okay, let's do our score system instead.
Okay.
Well, no, it's just about New Year's honours from last time round.
Oh, go on. Give me that.
I've passed it on, didn't I? An American teenager achieved internet fame when he became the first human believed to have beaten a classic video game. Which game was it? He beat a classic video game.
I'm sorry, I'm being asked about a teenager in America online beating a video game. I don't know, Tekken.
Finn has just said, is it Tetris in my ear? And that is one of the options. It's either Angry Birds, Donkey Kong or Tetris. How can you beat Tetris?
See, I was going to say Tekken 2.
Does it just end? It's not none of those. Angry Birds, Donkey Kong or Tetris?
Donkey Kong.
You're going Donkey Kong, Finn's going Tetris. I'll go Angry Birds.
There we go.
It's Tetris! Go Finn!
Unbelievable.
I love the fact that Finn gets a ping even though he's not in the studio.
Give yourself a ping.
Right, should we do scorecards on Kemi Badenoch? What are our categories again? We kind of wrap them all into one. Delivery and production values. Well, Tech Update's telling me Tech Update loves it. He's so ready for this. I bet he's actually got a chart. He's already got like a flip chart. He's got the spreadsheets.
Here we go.
Right, let's go. He has, look! Let's go, Kemi. Let's hear.
Happy New Year. Like...
Well, that makes it quite easy to judge, doesn't it? Perfect. The best one so far.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, Kemi. That's the best it's going to get.
Decent dress. I think that's brilliant. I would actually score that a 10.
Yeah, I'd give that. That's perfect. It's faultless.
If I was Prime Minister, that's what I would do. I'd just sort of like have a glass of wine and be like, Happy New Year. Oh, we have got more apparently.
Oh.
All right, let's play.
Never mind.
Happy New Year. Like all of you, I am looking forward to a 2025 that is full of hope, security and prosperity. The Conservative Party is also going through a period of change. This process of renewal will be a long-term project. Things may be bumpy along the way, but the party I now lead is going to do things differently. Watch this space.
Okay, right, I've got my 4 scores here for the different categories. So, shall we start off with delivery, when we actually heard the whole thing? And believe it or not, that actually is the whole thing.
Yeah,
that was it.
That was Incredibly brief.
Okay, so...
How long was it? Do we know how long it was?
About 25 seconds, I think.
That, yeah.
If that.
Okay.
Right, delivery. 3.
Really?
I've gone 7.
Why do you think it was so good?
Well, because she hasn't got congestion. She can speak.
But she didn't really...
That's content.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
okay.
you see, this is I'm learning to narrow it down then. She looked nice, the dress was good, her skin looks lovely, glowing, in fact. I want to know what her products are.
Did I say 3? I meant 8.
There you go, Kemi. We like you. I think we like nice...
I got the categories wrong.
Nice pitch to her voice. Yeah, it's all right there. Okay, production values. I've got to make sure I've got this in the right way.
Okay, I did give this a 3 because that was... I mean, it cut out after 2 seconds. That's dreadful. That's dreadful.
Oh, well, I mean, production values. If it's production values for people behind the glass, then that's there we go. You give me a thumbs up.
Also, it was even... If possible, the setting was even worse.
Do you
than
think?
Keir Starmer's.
I thought it was a bit better.
Very dark background. The picture was slightly fuzzy. Solitary, very forlorn,
maybe that's why
Union
Jack. So good,
and also she's wearing a bright red dress. She's the
dress.
leader of the Conservative Party, wearing a bright red dress. That shouts
it would have been very
danger.
that dark green, the backdrop. Yeah, it would have been.
I gave her extra points because she wasn't wearing, I think, moon boots, which was what she was wearing the other day, and she looked a bit like the 8-year-old at a wedding who nobody could persuade to dress properly.
I was just thinking, I've got like a dark blue on, and I don't often wear this jacket because it sort of clashes a bit with the backdrop. And I thought, we're going to have the festive backdrop up, aren't we? So I can wear this. No,
I'm
probably a floating head on people with low resolution screens.
Did you see the picture of her in the moon boots?
No, but do you want to see my boots?
This is what I was kind of angling for, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know if I can get my boots out with. Let's try. Let's try. Ladies and gentlemen, drum roll, please. You got one of those tech up? Tech up doesn't, so you're going to have to do it. Okay, ready? There's a boot.
Mon Dieu! Sasquatch has been skinned alive and is being worn by Alex Phillips.
Content.
Shouldn't say anything.
How did you give it 3 when she didn't say anything? It's a 1.
But, I mean, OK, she spoke. You know, there was English again, and it was less nasally. But actual content... I think I'm just rewarding her because it was short, and I was thinking, oh, thank heavens for that.
It's done.
OK, she didn't have a lot to say, and she condensed it into a very small amount of time. But this is the problem with the whole leadership.
For the past how many months, she's just gone, I will tell you what my policies are when it is time to tell you what my policies are. And I'm like, when's that going to be? Like 2030 at the next election? What are you going to do until then, love?
I know.
You are the leader of, in theory, the opposition. You've got to have something to say. You can't just say nothing.
The difficulty that she has with that, and it's where I have a little bit of sympathy for it, is whatever she says, people will turn around and go, you were in government for however many years, why didn't you do it then? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And now she wasn't the leader.
I wasn't the leader, and we're going to be doing things differently.
Doesn't matter. I think you can still... I think you can get a lot of... The fact of the matter is, I think actually a lot of members of the public, a lot of voters, don't necessarily care that the leader is different. They view it as the Tories in their sort of totality. Yeah. So if you sit there and go, oh, well, I wasn't the leader, people will, I think, go, who cares? You were one of them. You're tarred with the same brush. So I do have a degree of sympathy. And I also think, if we're being honest, the Tories don't know who their voting base is anymore. And so they don't know what to put out because they don't know who to appeal to.
No, they don't know who they are. They don't know if they're Lib Dems or Reform.
Yeah, they don't know what they are. Go on, you're giggling at something.
Because I've just sent messages. People, for some reason, people are liking describing what people look like today, which is a great thing to do. Describe what people look like.
2 eyes, a nose.
So, Happy New Year, Alex and Benedict. 2-tier looks like a co-op manager who has just nipped into the office after stacking the shelves. Why does he always look like a sack of spuds?
Presumably because he was stacking the spuds and one of them burst and opened onto him. I don't know. Do managers do
what is he? He's pound shop dictator, care home worker, and co-op shelf stacker.
He's on minimum wage in a lot of these scenarios.
Basically, he hasn't got much cash money, has he?
No,
that's why he needs Lord
very,
Ali.
Very prescient.
I wonder what he got for Christmas from Lord Ali.
That's a good... Now, there is an interesting thing. If you would like to volunteer, what Keir Starmer might have received from Lord Ali for Christmas.
I know I won't be able to read half of them out.
but we'll have them in the break.
Well, we'll enjoy them.
That would be great, so please do that.
And someone, Terence, has said, Benedict is looking very Benny from Top Cat with his pin eyes. Your pin eyes.
That's not the first time somebody said I look like a character from Top Cat. It used to be because my hair was quite big, but I've cut it shorter, so now I've morphed into not Top Cat, but a different character.
Well, I don't know which one this is, because there's 2 cats in the video you said. One is sort of blue with pin eyes, and the other one, frankly, looks like...
What does it look like? Can you say it on air? Are we going to get in trouble?
Sort of Mike Graham in drag, if you can imagine what that looks like in cartoon cat form.
If you can imagine what
If you can imagine what my growing
please let us know.
looks like in cartoon cat form, do please let us know. Right, let's talk now about... we've got to get on to some actual stories because it's...
Has there been any news? It's only, what, 11 hours into the... Has anything happened? Anybody invaded anybody? Or, has something happened?
No, something...
Are you
tempting
literally
fate.
looking at some
Well, no, just
breaking
there's
news?
some breaking news, so it is tempting fate here.
Oh.
And got a gear change.
Oh, dear.
So multiple casualties are feared in New Orleans after a vehicle has reportedly driven into a crowd on the popular Bourbon Street. That's according to CBS. A New Orleans police spokesman said that initial reports show a car may have ploughed into a group of people. Injuries are unknown, but there are reported fatalities. A CBS reporter saw multiple people on the ground with injuries. Witnesses said that the vehicle ran into a crowd and then the driver began firing a weapon, prompting police to return fire. Police, though, have not yet confirmed the report. That sounds like some pretty horrific developing news coming out of America there, New Orleans. And again, I mean, this is what the third incident that I can think of in recent times with a vehicle ploughing into a crowd. We had the Christmas market in Germany. We had an incident in London, of course, thankfully no fatalities, which emanated from a disagreement in a nightclub, I think. Now this in New Orleans, but you wonder the sort of world we'll be living in 2025 when this becomes the weapon of choice.
You see this in central London, all of these sort of grotesque, massive metal frames and structures and bollards that have to be erected everywhere at great cost to the taxpayer because it's a genuine concern.
Yeah.
It's becoming far more prevalent. It is the modus operandi of a couple of well-known organisations, but of course, random individuals who have their own motivations can do it as well. It's freely available to everybody to do. It's very upsetting because it is very often mass casualty. That's the entire point of it.
It is mass casualty.
And this is just... I was going to say... Do you know what? One of the good things...
grotesque, it's accessible to people.
Of course.
You don't have to go and buy, access weapons. It's a car.
Although in this incident it does sound like there was an incident, though of course it's the United States, so it's far easier to get a hold of weapons like that. But it's one thing I was going to say is that actually...
What time is it in New Orleans? It must be
early
hours of the morning.
Yeah. 5, 6 a.m.
Piece of targeting the revellers.
Yeah, very grim. And of course, New Orleans, big party city, very famously so. That's
devastating.
I was going to say though, actually, it was one of the things that I was actually quite thankful when I woke up this morning. There were no reports of incidents at Christmas markets or New Year's Eve events or anything like that across Europe that I was aware of, because that is something that you often fear these days, that these large events will be targeted.
Isn't it sad, actually, that the sceptic in me, when I heard various New Year's Eve events were being cancelled around the country, Hogmanay in Edinburgh, and I think the New Year's Eve celebrations in Blackpool or something like that.
Yeah.
It was, I believe, down to rubbish weather, high winds and fog, rain, snow, even in Scotland. I think that was genuinely the reason. But it's terrible, isn't it, that your mind immediately goes to, oh, is that just a cover story because they're worried about a terrorist attack? That we actually, once again, we've had a couple of years where we've sort of not rested on our laurels, but we've forgotten what it was like to be at the height of a terror threat. So I remember that, both in Brussels, where I used to live, and of course here in London, about 10 years ago, we were constantly told what the terror threat level was. We were primed and ready all the time for there to be an atrocity. And it feels like we are on the cusp of slipping back into that. And with things happening in the Middle East, with some of these big, well-resourced terror organisations who, of course, make a lot of money from people trafficking now.
Of course. And again, this is one of the reasons, I'm afraid, I'm very despondent about the future of this country, is that across Europe and in the United States, people are finally waking up to the realities of importing hundreds of thousands of people and not integrating them. This is an important thing that actually needs to be said. It is not simply that you take lots of people and you put them somewhere else and naturally there will be chaos, because they all mean you harm or anything like that. That's not the case. But if you do what we have done, which is just assume we, in our wonderful liberal democracies, we've figured life out, we've figured politics, we've figured everything out, and these people will magically become Germans or French or Brits overnight simply by osmosis. And it doesn't happen. And that's the attitude that was taken by our elites. And we were told, the rest of us, if you point this out, then you're the bad person because you're the bigot, and we will frame it as you're only criticising this because you're racist. finally, in other countries, they are beginning to work this out. No, you can't just drop people from one culture into another and just assume that they'll make it on their own.
I mean, it's not just that. With porous borders, you cannot afford to give people benefit of the doubt anymore.
No, you can't.
This whole idea that if someone's come over on a boat, we must sort of take their word that they're a refugee, give them accommodation,
First thing
wait
they've done
for
is
them
break the law.
to wait for them to explain why they need asylum, all the while sort of failing to actually track them or monitor them properly. If you were going to try and get cells into another country, you're not going to fly them in with passports into Heathrow necessarily, are you?
No,
you're going to
not.
use these sorts of routes.
And again, it's incredibly naive at a time when actually Britain has lots of enemies around the world. I know that the Cold War has ended, but still there are lots of countries that would like to do us harm, and we know would use whatever route necessary to try to infiltrate our country. And our attitude is to just go, well, let's be as open and tolerant as we can, and everything will be absolutely fine.
Because some people might genuinely be escaping a war-torn region, everyone has to be treated as if that's them. It cannot work like that.
Absolutely, there has to be.
Unsustainable.
It's unsustainable, and I'm also sorry to say that the fact of the matter is this country is even more desirable than many other countries in Europe because, A, we speak English, and that's the lingua franca of much of the world, but also we have an incredibly tolerant and forgiving benefits system. You know, there's no two ways about that. And when I say benefits, I include things like healthcare and education and access to housing. It's so easy to get things. And genuinely, I think people in this country, by which I mean middle-class liberal people, they forget that the reality of most of the rest of the world is so far removed from what we consider to be human rights standard. You know, that this is what everybody deserves. No. Almost nowhere else on earth do people operate like that, do governments behave like that, do they hand out so much money to other people for nothing in return. It's only here, and we are being taken for fools. I'm sorry, that's reflected in the Chagos Islands. The fact that the Mauritian government came around and said, this is a great deal, but we think we can get even more out of these people. And the British government looks as if it's just going to go, yeah, we're going to give them even more money for nothing. That's the attitude that we have, which is that we are somehow responsible for the rest of the world, and it's not true.
Before we go to break, lots of people suggesting things that Sir Keir Starmer might have got from Lord Ali. Not sure I can read any of them out, as predicted.
Oh, boy.
But Stephen Cornwall says maybe his present could have been a personality. Sadly, it was the boring uncle version. And have you ever been to Portsmouth?
No. Everything I want's in the other direction.
I don't think that's the case.
What's in Portsmouth for me?
Ironically, there are two messages that have come in. One from Suze in Portsmouth and one from Kathy in Portsmouth. And they're right next to each other.
They live next door?
It says, so the first one, this is Suze in Portsmouth.
Okay.
Alex, I think the top cats you were talking about are Benny and Choo Choo. I used to have two cats by these names. I can confirm that Benedict does have the look of Benny about him. Benny was very cute.
Okay.
Suze. Right. And most effectual top cat.
All right.
There you go. So Suze in Portsmouth saying, this is what's really strange. Benny was very cute, saying you look like Benny. Then Kathy in Portsmouth says, Benny from Top Cat is cute like Benedict. Do Kathy and Suze know each other? Are they sitting together? Is it going to be handbags at dawn on the streets of Portsmouth?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm prepared to pay for your train ticket, be a roving camera, send you down there and see if you're torn limb from limb by the salivating women of that coastal city.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if this is a reason to go to Portsmouth or another reason not to go to Portsmouth. I'm slightly terrified.
If you think Benedict is cute and you live in Portsmouth, let us know. The number is 0344 499 1000. Please WhatsApp me whether out of 10 how cute you think Benedict is. If you think Benedict's eyes are especially small this morning, you can also WhatsApp me about that. 0344 499 1000. You can also use that number to give us a call, register your interest and join us on the blower anytime you like, really. Same number. Standard network rates. What's going on with our graphics today? They're not popping. Oh, it's all going funny, isn't it? I actually think that Tech Op Dave, who sits and looks after the tech over Christmas, has just been sort of spilling beer into the system or something. 8722 is the number if you want to text us. Remember to talk before your text. We're on X at talkTV now. Coming up after the break, we are going to be speaking to Tony Breslin, director at Breslin Public Policy. That's amazing, Breslin Public Policy. I want to have Phillips Public Policy, an education consultancy firm, former chief examiner of GCSEs and principal examiner at A-levels. He's going to be talking to us about things that the education section could be facing this year. That's after this.
Saturday night, and you lucky people have got 4 of Talk's mightiest personalities in one room. I mean, what could go right? Me, Jeremy Kyle, Michael Graham, Julia, I'm Not Grumpy Tonight, Hartley Brewer and Kev O'Sullivan. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Jules is smiling.
I think they've made us all look a lot better than we actually look.
There
I know
is
what to
that.
ask for next time I go to the hairdresser.
I'd like to
Getting
talk
that.
about Jez's nipples on his...
You got nipples? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got nipples.
I don't know what to
I didn't
say.
think you had nipples. I assumed you just came in an egg.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. You'll be pleased to know the people of Portsmouth are speaking. Some of them not in Portsmouth. Angie says, I live in Portsmouth and I think Benny is cute. Benny, they've got pet names for you now. So you've got Suze, you've got Benny, you got... Was it Kath?
You're the one with the list of people in
Well,
front
are you
of
not keeping a list for your adoring female
No, I'm slightly
fans?
bowled over by this. I have no
Martin
idea.
Hove, it says, sounds like there's a lot of potential in Portsmouth for Benedict. You probably can't read that out. Well, I did, because I actually changed the word, because it wasn't potential.
Oh, great.
It said something else. And then Happy New Year to Alex and all of the team. I bet that Benedict looks like Benny from Crossroads before the makeup got to him.
Wow, all right. This is... I wasn't expecting any of this morning.
These references, I'm afraid that reference is way before my time. I've got no idea about Crossroads, what Benny and Crossroads looked like.
The main thing to take away is that I'm very grateful to the people of Portsmouth this morning. Thank you.
The people...
I hope that this is a positive thing. I have no idea what this Top Cat character looks like, though. You haven't shown me a picture of him. Can we get that up on the screen?
Well, I can't do much while I'm sitting here. Do you want me to sort of draw it in the style of, Pictionary or something?
Yes, actually, now that you've suggested that, I would like you to do that.
Next time.
OK.
Right, well, we've got a guest waiting. We better let him in. Dr. Tony Breslin. He's an educationist and author of Lessons from Lockdown. He's recently published analysis of education policy over the past 10 years. Welcome to the show, Dr. Tony. Where do you think education is going under the Labour government? I'm certainly alarmed by some of the things that have already happened, the scrapping of the Free Speech on Campus Act. But I think more than this, it is what Bridget Phillipson is proposing about creating a new diverse curriculum. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's an extensive review of the curriculum going on at the moment. There isn't a proposal as such for a more diverse curriculum. The curriculum review will come to those judgments. But our curriculum needs to be able to reflect our society. But I wouldn't expect major changes or changes that people wouldn't welcome in that respect. It makes a good headline, but I'm not sure the story's as big as made out.
All right, so this is sort of, one of those headlines that's very tantalising, sat there like a sort of like clickbait, but actually it's not going to be, the sort of woke mind virus infecting every single lesson.
I'm absolutely sure that won't be the case.
Let's talk about the VAT on private schools, because that comes in this year, and the impact that is going to have on education. I was speaking to someone the other day who said that actually the ripple effect could be quite significant, because the schools that are most likely, the schools that are most likely to be affected by this will be the lower end of private schools, the one that parents say we can just about afford these fees, but then when that goes up, they'll say we can't afford that and need to take those kids out of those schools. If those schools then shut, those kids go into the state school system. The money that was anticipated from this policy that was supposed to be then going into the state school system doesn't come because the schools have shut, and then you've got more pupils in the state school system and actually less of the funding. Is that a fair analysis?
I don't think it's an accurate analysis. I mean, it's a reasonable one. But if we look at the increases in school fees over the past 10 to 15 years, they've been way ahead of the rate of inflation, and we haven't seen that kind of exodus from the private sector. The truth is that when parents make a decision to privately educate their child, they often substitute, particularly those parents in the non-elite, shall we say, independent schools, they often substitute away from other things. They often make other sacrifices and so forth. But what we don't see when independent school fees go up is an outflux of pupils. I think the other side of that coin is that would not, I believe, be a crisis for the state system. I work with many school leaders, and I've been married to one for 18 years. And the reality is I've never met a school leader in the state sector who would resent the gaining of additional socially advantaged middle-class children, because of course when those children are not in the state sector, there's a range of other things that the state sector is missing out on: the participation of their family, their parents, the social advantage they bring, and so on. So I don't think that there will be a large outflux from the independent sector. I think if there was an influx of some middle-class children into the state sector, that would not break the system. I think it's a non-story.
What are standards like in schools? Because we have this, this has been going on for generations. I can remember when I was at school and it was like, well, you can't spell and add up as well as the previous generation. Oh, you're not focusing on the right things. I think my year was basically the test year. We were the guinea pigs. We were the first ones to do SATs. We were the first to do AS levels. We were constantly tested upon in the examination system, it seems. And we were forever being told that there had been a huge slippage in the quality of education and how educated our youngsters are. And I've become that person now. When I look at especially the spellings of some younger people, you think, oh, blimey, Lord help us, they're only going to be able to communicate in emojis in the next 5 years. But is that a fair assessment? Have we seen a sort of decline in standards when it comes to education?
Well, look, one of the achievements of the last government was a significant increase in standards in terms of literacy and numeracy. And I don't doubt that will be sustained. I started teaching in 1987. In fact, I taught the first GCSE guinea pig year, if you will. Standards are way higher than when I entered the profession. There are no connection between the two, but they're way higher now. And I think the rigour of the curriculum, the amount of work, for instance, that teachers do on the nature of the curriculum, and our outcomes show that. But part of the problem is that when standards go up, and I know this as a former chief examiner, when standards go up, everybody claims the exams have been easier. And when standards go down, everybody panics and says, we're all
the exams are too hard. Trouble. Yeah. Before I let you go, because it's a topic I love knocking about whenever I get the opportunity. We've been doing things pretty much the same way for a number of years now. We introduced academies under Michael Gove. Do we need to have a conversation about grammar schools? Because one thing that strikes me is people are very concerned in this country about an increasing lack of social mobility and that certain professions are being dominated by particular classes. I went to a grammar school and I think it was I'm from Gloucester, which by and large is not a particularly economically well-off city, far from it. And yet, looking at my old yearbook, when I was seeing my parents over Christmas, it was staggering. At the back of the yearbook, they had, everyone's sort of names, contact details, which university they'd gone to and what they were going to study. And I was astonished to see that pretty much everybody in my year at a state grammar school was going to not just a university, but an extremely good university. We had about 10-15% of pupils going off to Oxbridge and everyone else was at a Russell Group. And it made me think, grammar schools for me certainly worked. Is it time to have that conversation? Should we be looking at that? Did we scrap that system far too readily?
I think we should always keep all conversations open in education. I went to a former secondary modern. It converted in the year that I joined it to a comprehensive. And 3 of my friends went to university. And that's the problem, I think, with selective systems. That selective systems can work very well for the children who get into selective schools, what we find still today is that those local authorities who retain grammar schools have lower educational outcomes across the piece. So while the group who get into the said schools do well, it's actually to the detriment of everybody else, because those schools also tend to they bring in that they disproportionately are accommodated by middle-class children. You know, they often benefit from having excellent teachers, when the schools down the road, although they have excellent teachers, struggle to recruit them and can't keep hold of them. So we have to look at this system-wide. So I don't think it's about whether this kind of school is good or bad, but what we have to look at is, if we change the schooling system, what is the impact on the whole? And in particular, what is the impact on socially disadvantaged children? Because one of the things that we know is that while most of our children are doing better in education now, one of the conundrums of our success of the last decade, or the last 25 years, has been the more successful we have been with the 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% of young people, the more excluded the 40, 30, 20, 10% become. And that's our challenge, that we have this group of stuck schools, you know, in the most disadvantaged circumstances, which are really hard to move forward. That's got to be our challenge, because every school has children that go to it, and every child deserves the same opportunities.
Lovely speaking to you, Dr. Tony Breslin. Thank you ever so much. Before we go to break, what did you have, a governess or something?
See, I knew there was something that was going to come down the line. No, I went to a state school for a little bit of time, and then I went to a public school.
Of course you did. Did you have to wear a boater and things like that?
No, it wasn't that kind of thing. It was. We did have.
Were you a boarder?
We did have assembly in a cathedral every morning, but no, it wasn't quite that outlandish.
Was it one of those choral schools?
Norwich School.
I don't know. Thing is, about when people go to schools with names like that, they assume that everyone knows what their school is. My other half went to some school called Merchant of Venice or something.
Oh, Merchant Taylors.
And they had a croquet pitch and everything.
Yes.
I mock him endlessly for this. I'm like, you what?
I mean, you mock him endlessly, but he's the person that you've chosen, so that's surely a reflection. Yes, the reflection on you, therefore. Merchant Taylors School obviously had a very good impact on him. You ought to thank them for the hard work that they did, is the way that I'd look at that. Yeah.
Well done, Merchants of Venice. OK, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we're catching up with Simon Calder to find out what New Year's travel looks like after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Now, just to remind you, if you've missed it already, there has been some breaking news coming out of America, rather tragic news, in fact. Multiple casualties are feared in New Orleans after a vehicle reportedly drove into a crowd on the popular Bourbon Street. That's according to CBS, an American broadcaster. We've now heard from the police. There hadn't been a comment from the police yet, but a New Orleans police spokesman has now said that initial reports show a car may have ploughed into a group of people in the early hours of New Year's Day. It's, I think, around 20 to 2 in the morning over there at the moment. The spokesperson added that there were reported fatalities. A CBS reporter saw multiple people on the ground with injuries. Witnesses told CBS a vehicle ran into a crowd and then the driver began firing a weapon, prompting police to return fire. NOLA Ready, a New Orleans government agency, has said on social media there had been a mass casualty incident and told those nearby to get yourself away from the area. So that is an unfolding event in America, the early hours of the morning there in New Orleans. It sounds very much as though a car has been used as a weapon to strike members of the public, no doubt out celebrating New Year's Eve. Also unconfirmed reports of gunfire at the same incident. US officials are saying that 10 people are dead, 30 others injured. That is what we know so far. It sounds like a pretty big and devastating incident at this stage. I'm sure the T word is at the tip of everyone's tongue, but until we learn more, we will have no more to say. But I will try. 5:41 in the morning in New Orleans at the moment. I will try and keep you updated as we here in the newsroom are updated too about what has happened over in America. Well, let's bring things back to our own shores now and catch up with Simon Calder, who's travel correspondent for The Independent, about what New Year's travel is going to be looking like. The weather out there is looking pretty bleak. I know before Christmas we'd had a few issues with EasyJet flights coming out of Gatwick being cancelled due to heavy fog. What are the roads like if people are planning to make their way back before the working week begins for many of us as from tomorrow? Simon, how is it looking out there? What are the travel updates for today?
Happy New Year to you, Alex. And I'm afraid 2025 has rather picked up where 2024 left off. So, shall we start on the railways? We knew that there were going to be large-scale engineering works going on. So, for instance, the West Coast Main Line north of Milton Keynes going to Rugby is closed for urgent repairs to, would you believe, reduce the risk of flooding, stopping trains. And elsewhere, particularly in the north of England, flooding has stopped trains. TransPennine Express, the intercity operator in northern England and southern Scotland, has basically just said, do not travel. Don't even think about it. We're not able to run trains from Liverpool to Manchester, across the Pennines to Leeds and up to York and Newcastle and Redcar. So please don't even try to travel. Northern trains have said we've got big problems on lots of lines, for instance, Manchester to Manchester Airport. So they've said, please don't travel. And I'm afraid the one place where you're not seeing huge disruption is Scotland, but that's because there aren't any trains running because it's the 1st of January. And even if you are lucky enough to get to an airport, well, your problems could be just beginning, because we've got, for instance, 36 cancellations in and out of London Heathrow so far. That's because, once again, just as they have been doing over the past few days and weeks, they reduced the flow rate of arrivals, and that means that, frankly, as the world's busiest 2-runway airport, they can't get all the planes in without cancelling some. British Airways, 28 cancellations. Also, planes cancelled on Lufthansa, on Swiss and on Air France.
And what about roads? If people are going to be trying to make their way back from whence they came or from where they work, if they've been away this Christmas?
Yeah, they are looking very, very messy. Obviously, we've got, as you've been reporting, Met Office weather warnings in place. Now, pretty much the only part of the country which is not affected, I calculate, between New Year's Eve and tomorrow, is around the Wash. So if you're lucky enough to live in Lincolnshire or Norfolk, well, congratulations, you probably won't find much disruption. The roads are very busy on the key routes. Lots of people have obviously been to New Year's celebrations and are now on their way home. The big problem for a lot of people is that quite a lot of local buses aren't running, and therefore you're reliant on either other people giving you a lift if you don't have access to a car, or cabs, or Ubers. So that's quite tricky, and it's one of those things where the resilience of the UK infrastructure on road, on rail, and in the air is being severely tested. And then there's just stuff, Alex, that happens. So we've had 2 plane loads of people flying to London Heathrow, both unexpectedly saw the new year in Chicago O'Hare Airport. Just weird. We had the Virgin Atlantic flight from Los Angeles overnight last night. They had a medical emergency and they stopped at Chicago, and people unexpectedly saw the new year in there. And then British Airways had a diversion yesterday going out to Chicago, and there was a problem with the plane, and so they spent New Year in Chicago O'Hare. Both planes coming back to London Heathrow, both of them 4 hours behind schedule. And if you were hoping, as about 500 people who were booked on British Airways Flight 57 from London Heathrow to Johannesburg last night, everyone was hoping to wake up in beautiful South Africa beneath blazing sunshine. Well, they woke up in various hotels in the Hounslow area of West London. That plane delayed for 15 hours outbound because of technical problems, and they will be taking off hopefully around noon and arriving very, very late in South Africa, where of course there's lots of people waiting to fly back on their plane. They're going to get back tomorrow, but 8 hours late. So nobody said travel was going to be easy, and I'm afraid it hasn't started off at all well this year.
Well, I do like the sound of the party at O'Hare Airport. It sounds like the beginning of some sort of rom-com, doesn't it? You know, these flights delayed, this one's diverted, their eyes meet across a cruddy hotel bar, and there you have it. 2025 starts the right way with Crew Love. Simon Calder, thank you ever so much. Happy New Year. It's been wonderful catching up with you. Now, viewers, if anyone saw me when Simon's there laying out all the terrible travel disruption, my face twitching like this because I was about to burst out laughing. Benedict's stomach, I've never had anything like it. I don't know if it was actually being picked up. It's almost worth, Tekop, can you listen back to that and just see if Benedict's microphone was... I'm sitting here, Tekop had to fade you out. To fade you out. I'm sitting here trying to update the great people of Britain about, you know, their transport woes, speaking to the ever erudite and inimitable Simon Calder, and you're in the corner sounding like some sort of earthworks.
I'm really hungry.
Can someone bring Benedict a sandwich, please?
I'd really
appreciate
some biscuits.
We've got an advert break now, but someone just biscuits, anything, just, I don't know, get him one of those mockers from the coffee machine.
The diet clearly will not be starting today.
He's in trouble over here.
Wow.
Right, we're going to take a short break now, and what is increasingly becoming a weird show is no doubt going to get weirder as we listen to the sonorous sounds of the digestive system of Benedict Spence. We're back after this.
tonight, and you lucky people have got 4 of Talk's mightiest personalities in one room. I mean, what could go right? Me, Jeremy Kyle, Michael Graham, Julia, I'm Not Grumpy Tonight, Hartley Brewer and Kev O'Sullivan. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Jules is smiling.
I think they've made us all look a lot better than we actually look.
There is
what to ask for next time I go to the hairdresser.
I'd like to talk about Jez's nipples on his...
You got nipples? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got nipples.
I didn't think you had nipples. I assumed you just came in an egg.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Well, it's the time of the show that we have a bit of audience participation. Benedict has just had a bag of crisps that Finn kindly emptied Finn's infamous lunchbox. Finn's always got a really exciting lunchbox, actually. He's got. I think yesterday he had some sort of like tortilla stuffed with like ham, cheese. He's he comes well prepared, does
Don't start talking about food.
Thank goodness, because he's given you a few emergency kettle chips, whatever they're called.
Yeah, I'm very professional.
There you are. Now, some messages, shall we? Mark says, I said over a year ago that Benedict looks like Benny from Top Cat. My girlfriend thought I was mad, so it's great to know I'm not the only one. I've had a real laugh watching you this morning. Yay. We're funny, aren't we?
We're not trying to be.
Russ says, it's a pleasure to see you on the TV this morning. You're the cute one. Yeah. So there.
OK, 3-1. Fine. I'm still winning.
Benedict Spencer's a legend. And he does look like Benny off Top Cat. Hilarious. Another one, Benedict does look like Top Cat Benny. Vix has said, I actually sent my mum a text this morning saying, I love Benedict Spence. We can't all be wrong. We can't all be wrong. But here, someone said, Happy New Year, Alex and Benedict. I went to the Norwich school too, had assembly in a cathedral next door. I have the school picture of 1981 if you think you're in it.
1981, I will not be in that one.
So someone thinks that you're about 50 years old.
That's fair. No, that's fair enough. A lot of people, I think, are slightly bemused, if not horrified, when they discover that I was not, in fact, born in the 1970s. It's...
when were you born?
The 1990s.
I know, you're about 10 years younger than me, aren't you?
I am upsettingly young. My face doesn't show it. I've had a very difficult life, but, I'm 32 years old.
All of that pheasant and caviar is really taking its
life
toll.
is pretty tough for a child in Norfolk.
Do you want to see Benny from Top Cat? Because we now have a picture of Benny from Top Cat at our disposal.
Yeah, right here.
All right. Here you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Top Cat, the most effectual Top Cat.
There you are.
Whose intellectual close friends get...
Does it... Can you see the resemblance? The family resemblance?
No, I can't see it, but actually, this does remind me of somebody else again, and
Who
I can't
else?
think... I don't know. I'm looking at it, and it really does look like someone else, but I can't think who.
Is it somebody more broadly? Is it somebody who sometimes comes on talk radio?
It's not Ted. It doesn't look like Ted.
It's not Ted. No, Ted looks like a bear.
Ted looks like a bear, not a cat.
Yeah.
No, it's some sort of American actor, some sort of veteran American actor who does sort of slight comedic roles.
Does he voice Top Cat?
Probably. Anyway, there we go. Benedict, Benny from Kenny, whatever, some things
Benny
from Top Cat.
Great.
Hold it next to you, actually. That's a better system.
We're just going to have this the whole way through. Just... If you've seen this person.
Yeah, actually, I can see it. It's beginning to come into focus.
Police are warning members of the public not to approach this individual. They may be very dangerous.
Oh, right.
And hungry.
Shall we approach some other individuals, though?
In what context?
Phone.
Okay. Oh, well, no, they're calling us.
They're calling us?
Yeah.
But we're going to... Well, we could just not answer them.
Should we just...
We have editorial rights
we
to,
could just press
try make me.
answer on one phone and not tell them which one it is and see them all try and rush, see who it is.
It's Herbie. It's Herbie and Harrow. I like Herbie.
Go on, Herbie. Let's hear
Hi,
it.
Herbie.
Good morning to you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Listen, what's this clown up to now saying that I'm going to be better off this year? Where did he get this idea from? as from today, the fuel, gas has gone up, electric's gone up, fares on buses have gone up, we've got increase in council tax going up, we've got water rates going up, and don't forget the national insurance contribution is going to put everything else up. So how am I going to be better off with money hemorrhaging me from my pocket the way it is? Tell me, explain to me, please, Alex.
I'm trying to find something in my head, something that might reflect even an iota of economic optimism. And quite frankly, I cannot. Unless you take dramatic personal choices that you're going to be better off because, I don't know, you sell your wife or something like that if you have one. I'm not recommending you do that. But I'm really struggling to think of any way anybody out there is going to be better off apart from people who work in quangos, because there's a lot of them.
No,
and train
exactly.
drivers.
I mean to say, what a clown, the absolute clown. If he could itemise, which I'm going to itemise how much it's actually costing us to keep on going. The amount of immigrants coming over, how much more money can we keep on spending from our pocket for illegals to come over and benefit from our goodwill, if you like, which is what it is.
It is mad. I do actually think about it. For a while, Benedict, weren't they diverting foreign aid to for housing illegal migrants? They actually took some out from a foreign aid bill and then reversed that. I don't know. I'm sure that was a thing.
I don't know if it happened or if it was floated as an idea. I'm not sure if it did actually happen.
Something in my brain tells me it was happening and then Labour reversed that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So someone somewhere can look that up for me.
It's a weird thing. I do remember that being talked about, but I'm not actually sure if it ever sort of came into practice. But what is the amount that we're spending now on housing people? However many billion it is, 6 billion or something a year?
It's ridiculous.
It's something ridiculous.
Stupid amount. Stupid amount. And it's never going to get any better. I mean, to say, I think it's wake-up time, people in the UK. You're going to see now what the true facts of voting for Labour is really all about. They haven't got a clue. We are going to suffer even more than we suffered in the last 6 months. We need a vote of no confidence in this government to say you've had enough.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good device, but unfortunately that would mean the Labour government voting themselves out of power, and that's their jobs, that's their money, that's their privilege, that's their kudos. They're not about to, with a majority that size, turn around and go, do you know what? Let's just chuck it all in. It ain't going to happen. We've got to wait 4 years. At least by that time, we might have learnt our lesson for the future. Herbie and Harrow, thank you ever so much. Chris in London was waiting to speak to us, but we'll catch up with Chris a bit later because the music has begun, which means it's the countdown to the advertising break.
Not long for this hour.
There's not long left for this hour, but don't you worry because we're with you for yet another hour. When we come back to cheer you up, we're going to be talking about the state of the NHS. I don't think we're going to find any good news there, but we'll try and keep it optimistic anyway. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this.
I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament, and we will have a general election on the 4th of July.
I have just returned from Buckingham Palace to form the next government of this great nation.
Take a look at what happened.
I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack.
Time has come, and this surely is England's time. Williams, who scores, and Spain lead. Shot from distance is in. It is Cole Palmer. Low ball in or far ball, slides it in. An absolute killer of a goal.
I agree with the protest, but I don't think the violence was anywhere near necessary.
No, I mean, I don't think anyone, Nigel, would ever think that the violence was the answer at all.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה.
I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me.
If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the cats.
Liberal left couldn't understand that this man could be anything other than the great newsreader, a man of integrity.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back. Andrew's message today, I'm currently doing some very boring house chores, which I've been procrastinating over for weeks, but you and Benedict are just fabulous, and you're keeping me going. Happy New Year to you both and the Talk family. Thankfully, here at Talk, we're keeping Benedict going because some strange, anomalous good, some sort of cookie that has been on the desk of weekend editor Phil for, I don't know, about a month. Like, every time I come into the newsroom, I see that thing, and I think, does it belong to anyone? Is anyone ever going to eat it? There's some sort of cookie, which had a very good description, but it's been there in a sort of little wrapper for, gosh, I don't know, at least a fortnight, if not longer. Well, someone's eating it at last. It's Benedict. He's got it. There it is. It's the things that emerge in newsrooms, and I did have a crumb of it. It's all right. It's quite high quality. Is that good?
I'm so professional.
Yeah. I want you to rate it with your mouthful. Rate it on flavour notes, moist levels.
Flavour is very good. I'd give it a 7. The moisture is also very good. There's a hint of coconut to this, and I'm not a particular fan of coconut, so I'll mark it down for that slightly. I'm also slightly concerned that it says that this will last until January 2026. So I don't know what's in this.
Hey, it's well in date.
It is in date. When something is that far in date, I question what is in it to make sure that it's going to survive.
What sort of weird astronaut food? What chemicals are you lacing your body with?
So if I am not here in the next half an hour because something's gone horribly wrong.
Someone who might know about the health outcomes should you be poisoned by the very much in date but ingredient anomalous cookie, it's Roy Lilly, because he's a former NHS Trust chairman. Shall we ask Roy?
Oh, my prayers have been answered.
If Benedict were to eat said cookie and find that it contains some sort of chemical weapon and ends up indigestible as a result of this, will he be able to get in touch with his GP?
I'm going to ring ahead and make sure he does.
Right.
I think he's a VIP customer. We've got to keep him going, I think. So
I didn't realise there was
what we can. We'll do what we can.
The
for
secret
it.
Roy Lilly
this
back
looks self-inflicted to me. It's a self-inflicted wound, I think.
Well, I think at this point we're inflicting it on him because the noise coming out from his guts it was deafening.
It wasn't good.
I'm rather pleased that I'm not in the studio. I can't share.
It's so much fun. But this, I mean, look, let's get serious for a moment. Well, sort of serious, because everything's so miserable that I think the only way to get through all the terrible news that keeps bombarding us is to try and do everything with a touch of sarcasm and a smile. We have been warned about the quademic of infections, which are still rising, which has clogged up a lot of hospitals. A number of trusts, I think the Welsh Ambulance Trust declared a critical emergency. Another NHS trust the other day declared a critical emergency. Walsall, I think it was. We're really in a mess out there, aren't we? And I think most concerningly is this report that 23% of people who had actually just tried to reach their GP could not even make contact on the same day. What I like to call the telephone tombola, where, everyone waits at 8 in the morning when the phone line's open, have to hang on for an hour, and you can't even get through to the receptionist to even book an appointment, which might be in 2-3 weeks hence. And if someone really is in a, who might be unaware, but in a critical situation themselves where they need something diagnosed and treatment, this is going to have very severe outcomes, isn't it?
Well, look, if there's something wrong in the NHS, I'm always, willing to put the boot in along with everybody else and to say that there's a problem. But I actually think, this is part of a press release from the Lib Dems. And what they've done is they've cited what's called the WAVE study that the National Audit Office does. And it's like a rolling survey. You can go on their website and you can join in their survey. And you can tell them what your experiences was in the last fortnight, I think it is. And it's a 4-week window, and they do that and they wave and it rolls forward. And I actually had a look at these numbers because I thought it was a bit peculiar. Firstly, let me say, I whenever you do programs like this, if you say everything's fine, you get an avalanche of people saying, oh, no, it's not. So I'm not trying to pretend it's all perfect and everybody can get an appointment, everybody can get through. But I think it's important to look at the facts here. Firstly, the people who take part in the WAVE survey are self-selecting. And that means often people who self-select have some beef about the services, and fair enough. I mean, that's what it's there for. But secondly, there are two things about this telephone thing. The NHS spent a lot of money on cloud telephony, and it's provided it to GP practices, which does call stacking, call back, because a lot of GP practices had sort of dinky little telephone switchboard things which were getting swamped. And now over 90% of GP practices do have that cloud telephony, which has made a huge difference. And some don't, and that's because they've got long-term contracts with their current provider. So, I mean, not all practices have it. But when you actually look at the survey, and I looked it up myself this morning, these are self-selecting people. An estimated 95.7% of adults who tried to contact their GP practice in the last 28 days were successful. The percentage making contact on the same day has shown a small and consistent increase. It's about 78%, and it's gone up from about 62% when these WAVE surveys first started. So, yes, I mean, there's a difference between 95.7% and 100%. And I absolutely sympathise with people who try to get through their GP and they can't, and it's a problem, and some do make their way to A&E, which they soon get sorted out. But I think if the Lib Dems are going to sort of do this, they should be straight about the numbers, because I don't think the situation is as bad as it's portrayed by this press release.
Well, that is reassuring. I've actually screwed up the press release and put it in my bin, because it sort of does mask itself as a news story.
Thank you.
But let's talk as well about Keir Starmer. He's made a New Year's speech today, a message, and he's spoken about 25 million that's gone into the NHS already. Are we going to see any effects from that? Are we going to be able to start seeing the tide turn?
No. The money that's gone in, very welcome as it is, it's gone to fund the 20% pay increase that they gave to the junior doctors to bring the strike to the end. It's going to fund the national insurance uplift, and so that will find its way back to the Treasury. A lot of it, of course, will be spent during this winter period now where we've got this sort of quademic that the NHS is struggling with. And so just to say we put that amount of money in and it's going to fix everything, that's not true. Again, I don't think it's fair. Look, the NHS, does a lot of things badly, and a lot of things need to be fixed. But I think my New Year's resolution is, let's be straight about the numbers and let's stop pretending that throwing money at the NHS is going to fix it. It's not. There's a big capacity problem. We know that, and that's a kind of legacy issue that goes back to the world banking crisis and 10 years flatline funding when we didn't invest in the services. And then, of course, along came COVID. Before we went into COVID, we forget that there was a waiting list of 4.5 million people building then, and 40,000 vacancies in the nursing profession. Now, of course, COVID screwed everything up. We've got a lot more people now, double that number of people on waiting lists. And now we're seeing, and this is the really worrying thing, I've been in and around the NHS for a long time, but this is the first time I've seen this year where applications from people wanting to be nurses have fallen, and the number of people wanting to be doctors has fallen. So it's, the people are being put off coming into these professions. So I think it's serious, and somewhere or other we've got to fix that. Streeting, of course, has got, his boffins working away on a long-term plan. The NHS already has a long-term plan. It's perfectly sensible. All it needs to be is funding. But of course, we've got to wait till the spring now for his new long-term plan. And then that's going to wind its way through consultation in the Treasury. And none of that's going to start working probably until 2026. So, they just kind of kick the can down the road.
Do you think as well when it comes to access to medical care, frontline services, GP surgeries in particular, it's a bit of a postcode lottery as well. It very much depends where you live, which GP surgery you're registered to. I've had a Julian message me saying, contacting GP a few weeks ago, I slipped a disc, attempted to get in to see a doctor. By the end of the day, I'd given up and ended up going to the pharmacy and bought painkiller medication. But there'll be other people who say, well, where I live, actually, it's fine. We can get through straight away. I can even get a same-day appointment.
Alex, you're absolutely right. There's no question about it. It is patchy. There's no question. But again, you see, if you look at how we spend the money, we get over 90% of our first contacts with the public through primary care. So they're dealing with 90% of the first port of call. And they do that on less than 12% of the total budget. It's madness. When we need to shift that money into primary care and strengthen primary care. Now, the government is saying, oh, they've got 1,000 new GPs. Again, it's not true. They've got 1,000 trainee GPs working in primary care, but they can't work on their own. They have to work under supervision. So again, it's very misleading for the public till they hear those messages, and until you dig, you don't really know what's going on. I mean, clearly, we do need to kind of shift the fulcrum point of funding. We need to shift it away from hospitals into primary care. They did it in Denmark. Denmark spend 10.8% of their GDP on healthcare, which is less than us, but they keep 30% of their elderly population out of hospital simply by having proactive community care. They are knocking on the doors of people. We have a frailty index here. We know who the people are who are likely to end up in hospital, but they just stay on the list because we don't have the community nurses or the social workers to go and see how you're doing, look for trip hazards. Are they taking their medications properly? Are they hydrated? One of the biggest causes of elderly people ending up in hospital now, 75% of people will be elderly, and a lot of them will have been through dehydration. They get an upper urinary tract UTI infection, they get giddy, fall over, and then the roof comes in. All of this is preventable if we shift the fulcrum point of funding. And that, I hope, will be what Streeting does if we ever see, if his long-term plan ever sees the light of day.
Well, they've still got at least, 4 years to get it drawn up and announced and try to put in place, only for the next government to tear it up, no doubt. I think that's also a bit of a problem with anybody's long-term plan on the NHS. When the next lot come in, very often they want to steer the ship in a different direction. Roy, thank you ever so much. It's always fantastic catching up with you. Happy New Year. And there you go, Benedict. If you get poorly from that cookie, the Roy Lilly VIP channel to,
Yes. This is the kind of two-tier system I can get on board with.
I'll tell you what I do. If I've got any medical question, I just text Dr. Rennie.
It's, well, again, yes, and there's also, there is another doctor who comes
David
in.
Bull.
Yes, I was going to say, there are other doctors.
I do, yeah. So sometimes I text David. No, both, actually. And I've got my good friend Asim Malhotra as well. I text him. It's always good to know a doctor, and you can just sort of send a photo going, what's this? Well, we're going to die.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
Yeah. But I think the thing is, though, I kind of feel like, I'm sort of at the stage where I might have a little list to take to the GP soon. And you think, I can't be bothered. And that's so dangerous. If someone's got sort of symptoms or something going on that they think, it is troublesome, very often early diagnosis and prevention is the best thing you can do. Yeah. And I think the problem is people are sort of so demoralised and put off now that it's sort of arduous. If you thought you could just phone up the doctor and go in the next day with whatever quibble you have, a lot more stuff would be detected, a lot more people would end up with better health outcomes. Yeah. It really is, I think, problematic. And I remember when I was a kid, you could by and large see the doctor on the same day. If it was, they'd save on-the-day appointments. Now, you ask for, it's 2 weeks at least.
I mean, I'm a man. I've come to terms with the fact that I'll probably die of something that I look at a couple of months before and go, it's probably nothing. I'll rub some dirt on it. It's fine. But it's nice to know that even if I did want to go to the doctor, I wouldn't be able to see one. Until today, apparently, I get the fast-track treatment.
Yeah, so, you got the lily lane.
It's wasted on me because I'll just go, it's probably fine. I'll rub some dirt on it and it'll be fine.
Earlier on, we were talking about schooling, we were talking about education. We were speaking to Dr. Tony Breslin. And we've got Chris in London joining us now, who wants to have a chat about this topic of conversation. Hello, Chris.
Morning, Alex. Morning, Benny. Happy New Year.
12:15 this afternoon at this point, sunshine.
Okay. I'll give you that.
Yeah, so anyway.
Let me say, my thoughts and prayers go out to the at least 10 dead, 30 injured, and all the witnesses and the first responders. There's going to be hundreds of lives that are irrevocably changed forever now.
In New Orleans, yeah.
On New Year's Day. And for whatever reason, mentally ill, terrorist attack, or just in like New Year's celebrations, it's just awful.
Yeah. Indeed it is. Cars as weapons is also something I think we're going to have to start adapting to that as a society across the West now, and that's going to, well, it's going to make life far less enjoyable, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's not something to dwell on, but let's hope the injured pull through.
Yeah.
It's depressing, isn't it? Schools.
Yes.
VAT, right? What a load of rubbish. Class war. All right. Now, you've been saying about, and quite rightly so, that it's going to upset the kids that leave the private school because they're going to lose all their friends. They're going to have to fit into another school. The schools that they're going to try and get into are already at their limits. So the kids in the new schools are not going to like it because their classes are going to expand. But the biggest joke, and of course that's going to cost more to the national purse. But the biggest joke is that by doing this, it's opened the door for private schools to go back 10 years and reclaim all their capital VAT expenditure. So everything on your ledger that goes as a capital outlay, all right, they're going to be able to reclaim that VAT. The whole thing is going to cost money and ruin kids in the middle of their education. It's not going to raise any money. It
strikes me as a bit like, I don't know what you think about this, Benedict. Yeah, put down your phone. I see him at the corner of my eye reading his phone, so I'll deliberately bring him in. Every time I know he's not being attentive. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at Twitter.
We got you at work, live on air.
Yeah, I'm finding out what's going on in the world. It's a slow news day.
OK, fair enough. But, I want to know what you think to this, because it seems to me that the Labour Party have been intransigent about some of these policies. The VAT on private schools, and then also inheritance tax on farmers. And now let's take the VAT on private schools. I don't know what amount of money they're expecting to make from this, and it's going to go into the state school system. What's it going to buy? Like one swimming pool somewhere in Croydon?
Yeah,
it seems a silly little thing to be doing.
But they know it's not going to bring in any money. That's not the point. That's not the point. It's to destroy the private education sector in this country. That's why they're doing it. They're trying to force as many people as they can into the state sector, not because they think for 1 second
because they ideologically do not.
Yeah, because they're ideologically, for the same reason that they are now talking about how we're going to ban trail hunting for foxes. Because, the occasional fox might get caught. This is of no relevance to anybody. They're making this a big thing, that they're going to ban trail hunting in the countryside so that people can't hunt on horses.
We've veered off into a different topic.
No,
trail hunting,
is
this where you don't use a fox? You set down a scent
of a trail so that you can go out with your dogs and you can follow the scent, not the fox, so that no foxes get killed.
Right.
But occasionally, of course, a fox will get caught because, you're hunting with a pack of dogs and, there are foxes out there. And they've decided that this is a really important thing that we have to ban right now. Why is it an important thing? How many foxes are killed a year by this? Maybe a handful, if that. How many foxes are killed illegally through trapping or other sorts of dogs, dogs more traditionally related to the working classes that are set upon foxes for entertainment? How many of those are being prosecuted? Almost none. How many of those are being prosecuted for the killing of badgers or hare of deer, which happens on an industrial scale in this country? They don't get prosecuted because it's not men in red coats doing it.
Or perhaps they might want to bring up the suffering of animals who are not pre-stunned before slaughter.
There's
won't do that,
are they pursuing the fact that on rather frequent occasions sheep are going missing in this country because they're just disappearing en masse and nobody seems to know where they go? We all know where they end up going.
Where are they going?
They're going to Indian restaurants. They're going to Indian and Pakistani restaurants. They're being rustled. There is money to be made in rustling sheep in this country in this day and age because they will just disappear into a disreputable abattoir overnight. They will be slaughtered very quickly and they will end up in a restaurant across the north of England. That's why they disappear across the north of England. But we have this. It happens on quite a large scale, and nothing is really done about it because it's an awkward conversation. But a man in a red coat on a horse who's a bit of a toff, that's a really easy thing. It's an easy win that changes nobody's life, but it makes the Labour Party feel good about themselves because they're sticking it to a toff. In the same way, if private schools end up having to close down because all the lower middle class kids have gone, so the school itself is not sustainable, then again, it's a win for the working person. Who are these working people? We don't know.
I know the Labour Party know them. That's what's even more mad.
Exactly, because then we go.
Their kids to the private schools.
But then we go on to your point about the farmers, which you were also talking about. What is probably the biggest sort of set of working people in this country? It's people who work in agriculture. It's people in the countryside. Because, funnily enough, we've closed down the mines and the mills and everything like that. That doesn't exist. It's the working class people in the countryside who rely on farms, which are not, in fact, all owned by gentlemen in tweed. That's not how this goes. But they don't care about that because it's the perception of who their people are, and it's not those people.
Puts me in mind of a message that we've received from Stephen. I've lived in the Shires and 20 years in the city. Shire folk are just nicer than city folk. Yet we provide all their water, their power and food. Let's see solar panel on all the greens and commons in London and replace the statue of Lord Nelson with a wind turbine. What's good for the goose? But this is the thing where I feel like this. I love going out to the Shires. I'm from the Shires, and my other half lives in the Shires, and off we go very often. And they are nicer. People are just so nice at this because it's real England, it's proper. People sort of always, knocking on your door, do you need help with this? Do you need help with that? And you're right. You go after the countryside. Well, the countryside is what looks after you. The countryside is where you got your reservoirs. The countryside is where you have your farming.
Yeah, but increasingly, though, there are real problems around, life in the countryside. We think policing in cities is bad. It's much worse in the countryside now. There are far fewer police officers and they have to cover much larger areas. The thefts of very expensive farm equipment, for instance, it just doesn't get investigated. There aren't the resources there. Though, curiously enough, the one police force in the UK that is actually doing really well is Norfolk Constabulary, because they take the approach which is that every crime that is reported, it doesn't matter sort of how low it is, will be investigated. Their rates of being able to get convictions for things like burglary are massively higher, massively higher than in London. They have a fraction of the resources and they cover a much larger expanse, but they go after people and they get prosecutions. It can be done, but, that's a very different sort of attitude.
But hopefully not after tweets.
But what I would say is that is the attitude of, if you like, a county where people demand more and expect more, and the police demand and expect more of themselves because there is still that ingrained sense of high trust.
And community.
Exactly, even though it is very disparate and very sparse. They understand what the duty is to their fellow, to their neighbours and everything.
We need to take a short break now. I was really glad we got into cattle rustling, sheep rustling up in the north of England. I want to revisit that topic. Now, when we come back after the break, it's your turn to talk to us. 03444 99 1000 is the number to call. 87222, the number to text. Remember to write the word talk before you text. Everything costs as much as it normally costs for you anyway. So what is your excuse? You can also WhatsApp me 03444 99 1000 and leave me a voice note, should you wish. Right, short break now. Back after this.
Saturday night, and you lucky people have got 4 of talk's mightiest personalities in one room. I mean, what could go right? Me, Jeremy Kyle, Michael Graham, Julia, I'm Not Grumpy Tonight, Hartley Brewer and Kev O'Sullivan. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Jules is smiling.
I think they've made us all look a lot better than we actually look.
I know what to ask for next time I go to the hairdresser.
I'd like to talk about Jez's nipples on his...
You got nipples? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got nipples.
I didn't think you had nipples. I assumed you just came in an egg.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the show. Benson Alex at your service for another half an hour. Now, we have been throughout the programme doing our ratings on the New Year's Day messages that various party leaders have broadcast on social media. We have done Sir Keir Starmer, who scored, well...
Not highly.
Well. Kemi Badenoch, who scored well.
Slightly higher.
Bit better.
Yeah.
So we did prefer it when the tech team got it wrong and it just said Happy New Year and stopped. You're like, yay, we top score.
That's the leader that I
That was the one. So it's only fair that we now roll on to another party. We have
Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping!
Chinese Communist
Kung Hai
Party.
Fat Choi. Which is actually Happy New Year in Cantonese.
Is it really?
Yeah.
There you go. I thought it was going to be something else.
You didn't know I had that up my sleeve, did you?
No, I didn't.
No, it isn't Xi Jinping. It is a man just as terrifying to many. It is Nigel
Lukashenko.
Farage.
Oh, OK. Fair enough.
Here he goes.
The fish rots from the head down.
Is that it?
Wow.
Do you know what? I actually like the fact that whether this is deliberate now or whether this is the tech going wrong, there is definitely humour woven into the technical mishaps I'm going to do in inverted commas.
I tell you what,
okay,
let's just leave it. No, let's leave it at that. Thank you, Nigel. That was phenomenal.
So, yeah, I give delivery, production values, content, overall.
You've won Strictly Come Christmas, whatever it is.
Strictly Come New Year's message.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Fish rots from the head down.
Yes, it does.
Take it away, Nigel.
The fish rots from the head down. We have been appallingly led in this country now for several decades. We are in societal decline. We are in economic decline. Most people are getting poorer with every year that passes. We're losing any sense of national identity. And we're actually teaching kids at school that people like Winston Churchill, born in this palace, are bad people and that our country's history is something to be ashamed of. It was also because I'd fought so hard and so long for us to get back our independence, Brexit, taking back control of our own lives, and to see that completely squandered by a Conservative Party who frankly never believed in it, but used it for electoral advantage in 2019.
Well, there we go. I mean, again, I would say that the 10 went for fish rots from the head down. Unfortunately, now we've seen the longer clip, I've had to mark it down because that was just perfect in its succinctness.
Yeah, I've forgotten what the categories were. I've written down what I think they are.
OK, we've got delivery.
Delivery.
Score for... Is that the one you haven't done? A 7 for delivery. I'm gonna do an 8. But he's good.
Because he's your mate. That's why.
Well, he's my mate.
Because he's your friend.
I'm going to get in trouble. Sorry, Ofcom. This was just an innocent game.
7. I thought it was very. I mean, he was clear. He wasn't actually sort of promising.
No
anything
congestion.
No congestion. Yeah, I thought it was all right. Delivery.
Production values. Yeah, I've done 8 again.
Blenheim Palace. Is that where he was?
What I loved is the trolling of you might be in Lord Ali's house. I'm in Churchill's.
Yeah, that was
cool.
I mean, everything about it, though. Actually, the decor, very tasteful. Suit, modern, but OK.
Oh, we're going down
bit of a dull tie, but
we did actually criticise Starmer's moves on show.
Well, exactly, so I think we have to go down for that.
And we did talk about Kemi's dress.
It could have been better. There could have been a performing monkey in the background.
Also, actually, on that, the tie was sort of UKIP purple.
It was a bit Yeah, it wasn't
should have
quite...
been reform blue, really.
Is it blue? Is it teal?
Updated.
Is it turquoise? What is that
This
colour?
is a bit like what's the colour of tennis balls?
This is the back of... Is it this colour? What colour is that?
Yeah, kind of. That's sort of the Pantone, I reckon.
Yeah, I got this
It's had
specifically.
blue.
I think
But
that
it's
it's going to be
green.
very in for the next couple of years. I'm not a member of Reform.
No,
but
I see
still.
what you do.
Lol.
So production values, well, we liked them. It's good. We had
liked them.
alternative camera angle.
We did. Oh,
we didn't
that's
have that
true.
with the other
It
two.
came
We
from
had
different-
like this one and then a different camera
coming
angle.
at you like a beam.
Yeah, we
like
can
a
do that in
ray.
this studio as well. Look, we can have that camera.
Your
angle,
head,
that
your hands
camera
in the
on me.
way now. It's like
yeah, look, we can do alternative camera angles, or we can't even play a clip these
We
days.
can.
So I'm not going to keep my hopes up.
Yeah.
But we can do it. We have got the capability.
Yeah,
if we're on our game.
Yeah.
What have we got? We actually missed overall with Kemi as well. But content.
It started quite weirdly.
Fish
rots from the head. Not
down.
even a by your leave or Happy New Year or anything like that. Fish rots from the head.
No, but this is an excerpt from the speech. There is more to it. So
How
in fact,
long was this
The actual New Year's message starts with a drone shot flying into Blenheim Palace, which is kind of...
Well, if we'd had that might have improved his production skills.
What I would have liked, what could have scored a 10 here, I reckon, is the drone coming in, fish rots from the head down...
There's a fish
with the alternative,
rotting there,
with the alternative camera shot in it, Nigel changing his tie to the Reform Blue and just walking off set. That would have been 10.
Sounds a bit like a sort of a Simon Sharma history documentary, just random shots of different things, an apple here, a fish there, that's used as sort of a metaphor. It could have worked. Or David Starkey, not Simon Sharma, sorry.
Or like a sort of a televisual still life, if you will, a tableau of Blenheim Palace's...
Yeah, no, but I thought that was...
But yeah, well, OK, so what critics would say is, oh, there he is, Nigel Farage, pretending to be a man of the people, there he is in Blenheim Palace, no.
I think what he should have done is had a large stack of Elon Musk's cash in the background and just not actually mentioned it at all. Just giving you a very straight thing with a great big stack of cash.
Like a number of suitcases.
And have got
people counting the notes behind him.
To have got Elon to be coming in and adding to the stack as he's talking.
Actually, I mean, good, like suitcases lined up, some Monopoly money, a sort of flurry of people down a conveyor, sort of, counting it all, like with those
just
machines.
Something to set Carol Cadwaller's head ablaze.
She's gone.
Has she gone?
Yeah,
Where's she gone?
She's not employed anymore by the Observer. Happy New Year.
What'll she do? I mean, that's...
I don't know.
Oh, OK.
I don't care. But she don't have a
you
job
cared
anymore.
enough to mention it.
Oh, no, I enjoyed it when I learned
Is she still on Twitter? Most of them aren't on Twitter. Have they all gone off to that Blue Sky place? Is that still a thing? How are things at Blue Sky?
Content for that, for Nigel's speech. What was your...
I told you it was 5.
Oh, it's right, and I think I was 8. Overall score?
Oh, I'm going to give Nigel... because he seems to have the answers to absolutely everything.
I like that. Well, I see. So we did the literary reference, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Well, I just lazily wrote 8 on about 4 different pieces of paper and then just written another 8. So apparently I just like the number 8.
Do you think he's going to be Prime Minister? Go on.
I don't rule it out.
So,
I think it's
you
possible.
think that Reform could have a majority? In the next 5 to 10 years.
We're a long way off, and the system's difficult, isn't it? First past the post. But I don't think it's absolutely impossible, and I don't think I'd have ever imagined myself saying that.
You agree with me, it would have to be a majority. There could be no coalition with the Conservatives.
I don't know that as well. I think in order for there to be sort of a righty in charge, it probably has to be some form of coalition. Possibly the same next... Look, where we're at polling now, it's all sort of splitting. Actually, at the top, it's almost a three-way split.
Yeah, it is.
So that means someone's got to do a deal with someone.
Well,
and
this is what
Tories previously did a deal with the Lib
Labour
Dems.
in power under the current set of circumstances is even though they are monumentally unpopular, Tories and Reform are going to keep taking chunks out of each other. And the thing that I do just think is, I really do think there are people in the Conservative Party who would rather see Nigel Farage lose and
definitely.
be happy to lose themselves to achieve that. So I don't think there's going to be this electoral pact.
You're right
I
about
also
that.
think Kemi Badenoch is not going to make the next general election. And I think it's rather interesting that Robert Jenrick is... taking his time, if you like, to sort of ponder what his next move is.
It's going to be an interesting year politically, that's for sure. We're a long way off the general election. Really long way off. I mean, the last one's still very much in memory, but people are already talking about it. That's how excited they are.
It's fun to play Nostradamus, though, and to try to...
Oh, indeed it is. Oh, you want to know what he says about 2025? It's not good.
It's not good.
Right, we're going to take a short break now. We're going to Google what it was that Nostradamus said, plus that blind woman who was in Bulgaria, whatever her name was, who agreed with Nostradamus about things being rubbish this year. We'll cheer you up when we've done a little bit of Googling, and also going to be asking you whether you are doing dry January. Well, once we tell you what Nostradamus says, you'll probably change your mind if you are. That's coming up after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back. Now, let's keep you abreast of that emerging situation in New Orleans in America. Local police are now giving an update on an incident that has killed 10 people so far, injured 30 others in New Orleans. A vehicle ploughed into crowds celebrating the New Year in a popular street in the city. One official says an investigation is active and ongoing. However, Mayor LaToya Cantrell says the city has been impacted by a terrorist attack, and she has been in direct contact with the White House. She urges residents to avoid the area, saying a unified command is in place. At least 10 people have been killed after a vehicle struck a crowd celebrating the New Year in New Orleans. That's according to emergency officials. Another 30 injured in the incident, which took place on the corner of Bourbon Street, a very popular street in the French Quarter of the city. It happened at around 3 a.m. local time. There were also unconfirmed reports of the driver of that vehicle emerging from the vehicle, gunshots being fired, police firing gunshots back. But we have the mayor now of New Orleans, LaToya Cantrell, saying that the city has been impacted by a terrorist attack, saying that she is in contact with the White House. I would imagine that perhaps the numbers that we're seeing, the figures on casualties and those injured, could well go up. It'll be interesting to see actually in the new year how the President Biden and President Trump respond to this, what might appear to be a terrorist incident that has taken place in America on New Year's Eve, targeting members of the general public. We're also learning that 2 police officers appear to have been shot in what is being described now as a terrorist incident over in New Orleans. A dreadful way, frankly, to start the new year. Innocent people out celebrating, looking forward to what's ahead. And we're reminded about the monsters that stalk our societies, quite frankly, around the world, in the West. People with a bloody and evil intent to kill and to maim for their twisted ideologies are devastating for New Orleans, which, of course, has had many tragedies in the past as well. Think of Hurricane Katrina, a community that has been rocked before by mass casualty events, waking up on 2025. What we do know is that it's been reported that it seems the incident was very intentional. It started around 3:15 in the morning. A man driving a pickup truck on Bourbon Street. That's according to Superintendent Anne Kirkpatrick. It was driving at a very fast pace with very intentional behaviour, not a drink driving incident, a pickup truck. Well, it just honestly, a lump in my throat. But when these things happen, it makes you despair. You wonder how on earth there are people out there who would do these things. Yeah, it's terrible.
It's important to remember that for all there will be the desire for people to say kumbaya and don't look back in anger and all of that, there are people at large in our society, in other societies, who hate our way of life, who hate us, and are prepared to do these appalling things to harm, not power structures, not politicians, not anything like that. Ordinary people, often the most vulnerable people. We've seen that in the UK last year. We've seen that across Europe, actually, people targeting the most vulnerable in society. And it is not unchristian to say we don't have to tolerate this. We shouldn't have to tolerate
the intolerable.
And it should not be our society that changes to try to accommodate these people. That's not the direction that we should have to go. The fact that we have to put large steel crash barriers across London in this day and age is not tolerable. It's not acceptable.
It is the people.
It is the people who threaten that way of life who shouldn't be here in the first place. And some people will say, it various different ideologies enforce this. Of course they do. Society shouldn't have to tolerate extremism from any direction. When it is coming from these directions and people are using violence to try to achieve whatever their means are, and let's be clear, it's simply destruction, we shouldn't have to put up with
It's interesting as well, we became sort of accustomed to, during the sort of ISIS period, if you will, about a decade ago, ISIS releasing footage of videos of horrible things going on, beheadings and so forth. What's interesting is that is still going on. That is also a huge uptick now of terrorist organisations committing the same atrocities, but it's almost like we're not talking about it anymore. It's almost as if the West have gone, oh, well, this is what happens now. We'll just quietly build barricades. We'll just quietly cancel events. We'll just quietly gaslight the general public as to the nature of the situation we may be in.
I don't think it's going to work. And this is the thing, as much as people can, they can shriek about the rise of the AfD in Germany or the Front National or whatever it's called now, National Rally in France, or the fact that there is now a centre-far-right, whatever it is now, government in charge in Italy, which is now determined to be not quite far-right enough for a lot of people, Giorgia Meloni. That is the direction of travel in Europe. And it is not because Europeans are bad people. It is not because they are inherently awful, racist people who have no interest in diversity or tolerance. It is because a lot of Western countries have gone through a process over the last few decades of trying to be accommodating, of trying to face racism head on. Everything from Holocaust Memorial to the legacies of empires and colonialism, and they have had it thrown back in their faces.
This is the thing. There has been no movement from the other side. It's constantly been, you're a racist, you've got to change your attitude, you can't say that, that policy won't work, oh, perhaps we've just done it a bit too quickly. No. What has been committed across the West is mass cultural vandalism. You cannot have one extant population, whether it's Westerners, white Westerners, Anglo-Saxons, French, Germans, Prussians, Russians, Czechs, Australians, Indians, doesn't matter. You cannot have one extant population and suddenly go, we're going to move a completely culturally different group of people into your country, into your community, who aren't going to mix, who don't want to know your way of life, in fact are going to threaten you, attack you, change what you've been used to, and expect the original people to go, well, that's fine.
But also,
what's so ridiculous is this is what we're taught all the time about colonialism. Oh, wasn't it bad what we did to the Aborigines? Isn't it bad what happened to the American Indians? Isn't it bad, all this white colonisation? And yet when people in the West say, we're not happy when we're seeing our local church become a mosque, we're not happy when we're having to build road barriers because there are people who are directly threatening our lives. We're not happy when we go to the local supermarket. I wanted to buy some meat the other day from my local supermarket, small supermarket. Went over the road. It was sort of Christmas period, so the funny opening hours, a lot of stuff had sold out. But the only stuff left to buy was all halal. And I was like, I'm not buying it. Why is that here?
It's morally...
all the restaurants now on my street in the centre of London advertise in their window that the meat is halal. I'm like, I'm not going to go and eat there then. I'm sorry, I don't like my animals suffering.
Yeah, it's... I mean,
Forget it.
That's an entirely separate conversation about what should or shouldn't be tolerated in a civilised society. It is unnecessary to kill animals in those set of circumstances, and I think if your religion means that much to you, then you don't actually have to eat that animal.
Do you know, I don't see why we have to have halal here at all.
Well, it is... Let's also be clear. It is not just... in Islam and halal meat that is barbarically killed.
Well,
let's be clear, it is not the only one.
I know, I'm aware of
The
that.
thing that is always the prism through which we're always told we have to look at this is, well, you've got to be careful in case the far right does something, in case there's a reaction. And I would have thought that the lesson of European history and American history is that you get the far right, you get racism, but you also, on the other hand, you get communism, you get the desire to level society and slaughter just as many people through other means. When society there is upheaval, be it through stupid war, stupid economic policies, when you shake society and you rock the foundation so that people are insecure, that's when you get the extremist reaction. And I'm sorry, but bringing in people from other cultures and failing to have them, buy into society, just assuming you can drop them there. The UK, the United States, lots of other parts of Europe are very good examples of what happens if you bring in communities who want to assimilate.
Yes.
The United States is a very good example. Britain is a very good example, actually, of the Jewish community in the UK, the East African Asian community in the UK, the Chinese community in the UK. There are lots of examples. Polish again, of very different cultures, different cultures that come here, and if they want to assimilate, there are not problems on the same. The Caribbean as well, communities, actually, it's possible. But when you bring in people on a huge scale and there is no pressure on them to accumulate, and it is the other people who are told, no, you must accommodate them, that's when the problems start. And you're seeing this now in the United States. We're all told the US is this wonderful melting pot until it stops telling people, you're here to be American.
I heard the most astonishing thing. I was listening to the radio this morning. It's a Polish foreign minister having an interview.
Oh, is this Radek Sikorski?
And he was saying, oh, well, we need governments in the West. He was being questioned about people being worried about immigration and other parties getting more prominence. And he said, well, perhaps everything's been done a bit too quickly. No, perhaps just don't do it at all. And then he said, oh, well, the problem is we need to now start listening to the people. Otherwise, what happens is populists take advantage of the situation. I'm like, hold on. You're saying that actually people who are listening to the people and saying this is what we should do have no right to do that. You should be doing it instead when you haven't been doing that. Jog on.
Yeah, this is Radek.
Establishment elitism. Go away.
It is Radek Sikorski you're talking about.
Yeah.
He, along with the current leader of Poland, Donald Tusk, these are, they're dyed-in-the-wool Europhiles. They are people who a couple of years ago, their reaction to Brexit, amongst other things, was absolute fury, not astonishment, anger that the people had the temerity to make a decision, as if Mr. Sikorski or Mr. Tusk actually should have any involvement in British politics at all. But no, this is somebody who has gone on a bit of a journey, if you like, over the last couple of years.
It's interesting
and is beginning to see what is politically necessary for that type of politics to survive. And it's only now at the very tail end that they're actually bowing to it.
Right. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Breaking news. The FBI has said this is not a terrorist event, but improvised explosive devices have been found. The investigation into the incident in New Orleans have been handed to the FBI. The assistant special agent in charge joins the news conference to say this is not a terrorist event. Instead, she says there have been improvised explosive devices found in the area. We are working on confirming if this is a viable device or not. She urges people to stay away from the area until officials can figure out what's going on. We're going to have to take a break now, but the FBI is saying the mass casualty event where a pickup truck's been driven into crowds in New Orleans, 10 dead, many more injured. There's an improvised explosive devices nearby, but they're saying it's not a terrorist event. Right, we'll see you after this.
Saturday night, and you lucky people have got 4 of Talk's mightiest personalities in one room. I mean, what could go right? Me, Jeremy Kyle, Michael Graham, Julia, I'm Not Grumpy Tonight, Hartley Brewer and Kev O'Sullivan. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Jules is smiling.
I think they've made us all look a lot better than we actually look.
I know what to ask.
No.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Hello there, welcome back to the show. Now, you're doing dry January.
Yeah, looks like it, yeah.
That doesn't sound like someone who's convinced. I'm not.
I mean, I was supposed to be starting a bit of a health kick, and I'm eating a cookie.
I once tried to do Sober October. I made 2 weeks and I got bored. But I am going to try and have a sensible January.
Sensible January.
Well, until I'm going over inauguration for that. So by the end of January, I'm going to be at all the parties giving it that. So
giving it that.
Giving it a bit of that.
Keep doing that.
Bit of that.
bit what?
Bit of that.
Bit of that.
Bit of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you what. I'll limit myself to a solitary binge a week. Well, there we go.
Let's speak now to James Edmonds, who's the managing director of Trip. What are your thoughts on dry January there, James? I mean, are you participating? Do you think people should, or is it just a fashionable exercise and then what happens is people give up very easily? Or does it set a good habitual precedent?
Hi, Alex. Well, thanks so much for having me. Look, I think dry January has gone from being an interesting trend that a few people did maybe 10 years ago to this year, 15 million adults in the UK are going to do dry January. So it's gone from being something that, only one person who's doing it to 1 in 3, 1 in 4 adults in the UK are going to do dry January, or at least try to do dry January this year. So we'll see how far they get throughout the 30 days. But it's definitely becoming a really big thing across the UK and across people from all walks of life.
Isn't the problem really, what this reflects essentially is that every other month of the year people kind of know they're drinking too much. They know that their consumption is far higher than what it should be. I put my hand up, I'm part of that cohort, and think, well, I need to somehow find a way to get myself out of this slump. I've become too used to coming home, opening the fridge, getting whatever tasty treat is inside there, opening the top, and then that one glass becomes 5, and then I've woken up the next morning feeling a bit jaded and I really can't continue doing this. I can't sustain this. And so perhaps people need to actually find a way to make alcohol a less involved part of their lives, or as much as they have been throughout the whole year.
Exactly. I think that's it. I think that across the UK, a third or more people know that alcohol doesn't really positively affect their health. I think that alcohol is something that is quite ingrained in lots of people's daily lives, weekly lives, social lives. But we all know that it's not great for your physical health, and it's also not great for your mental health either. I think what we're starting to see is that people are looking for ways to keep those same moments throughout their week and throughout their social lives, but trying to reduce the amount of alcohol that they're consuming. That doesn't mean you have to stop drinking entirely. You might try a month in January, or you might just try and cut it down from, 3 drinks to 1 drink. You don't have to cut it out 100%. And I think that that's what we're seeing at Trip, is that loads of people are looking to ways to moderate. It's kind of how I remember people started going vegetarian 10 or so years ago, and you started hearing about flexitarians. I think that's what we're seeing with alcohol, is that not everyone's cutting out alcohol entirely. They're just moderating because they know it might help with their sleep, help with their stress levels. I mean, the difficulty is, of course, is once you have 1 drink, it likes company. I think by and large, one of the easiest ways is if you say to yourself, I won't drink inside the house, it can help. The minute you've got like bottles of gin and wine at home, you go in, you're like, I'm not going to drink today, and then you're sort of going to cook dinner, you're like,
well, I'm a bit weird cooking without a glass of wine. Then before you know, oh well, the recycling bin's making that familiar rattling noise.
I think Trip over the last 5 years has helped tens of millions of people cut down their alcohol consumption just because they've liked switching from alcohol to Trip. And I think the reason why Trip has been so popular as an alcohol alternative is when you have a Trip, you don't need to change how you live your life. You don't need to kind of get rid of that moment where you get home from a long day at work, you want to put your feet up, watch TV and have a glass of wine. And if you have a drink that can help you relax and unwind but doesn't have alcohol, then it means you can still keep that moment of...
but what does Trip have, James? Tell us what Trip has.
So Trip's a range of drinks that has lots of ingredients that help you relax and unwind, whether it's CBD from the hemp plant, whether it's magnesium. We've created drinks with blends of natural ingredients that help you unwind and relax. And I think that's why people choose Trip as an alcohol alternative, is you can still get that relaxed feeling from Trip that you maybe don't get from some other alcohol alternatives. If you're having a lemonade, Coca-Cola, you're not getting that